The Pledge of Allegiance before we do the agenda.
Madam Mayor, it is 6:02 and we are live.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City of Lake Worth Beach Utility City Commission meeting of Tuesday, September 30th, 2025. May I have the roll call, please?
Mayor Betty Resch,
Here.
Vice Mayor Sarah Maliga is absent. Commissioner Christopher McVoy,
Here.
Commissioner Mimi May,
Here,
Commissioner Anthony Segrich.
Present.
and I have a statement from Vice Mayor Maliga. So I'm going to read that with your permission, Mayor.
Please.
She has sent a statement and it says, "Thank you to my colleagues, city staff and residents for your support. Over the past 10 days, I have received many calls and messages with concern for my well-being while I've been on medical leave, and I truly appreciate you all. Due to some minor complications, I've been unable to answer emails, but please feel free to reach out to city staff if you need immediate attention or responses. Depending on the healing process, I'm hoping to be back on the dais October 6th. Thank you again for your understanding and support, Vice Mayor Maliga."
And Vice Mayor Maliga, our prayers are with you, and I'm sure I say that for everybody. Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. McVoy.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are there any additions, deletions, or reordering?
I have none, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Oh, the lights went on. Mr. McVoy? Well, Mr. Segrich?
I would like to add commissioner reports to the end of the agenda.
Well, I'm gonna switch my letting him go first because that was my request, but
Now, boys.
that's a request. I also have. If you're.
Is that your, was that your,
Yeah, so,
well, let's see what, he might be joining.
Okay.
I had one ordering request, which was to move, and I hope I got it right, new business item K to become new business item B so that Joan, do I see Joan? I don't see Joan. Well, I was going to say, so she doesn't have to wait through the whole lot because I think it's going to be a fairly pro forma unanimous vote for it, I would guess, but she's way after a whole bunch of other
Yeah,
things.
I mean, why don't we see, we'll keep it where it is. When she comes in, we'll see her and then we can,
I'm going to cover that.
I'm sorry?
I'm going to cover that for the CR.
Oh, so
In
she's
that
not coming.
case, don't worry about it.
So never mind.
Okay, can't,
Oh.
never mind.
Unless I get to leave early.
Give him an inch.
Yeah, exactly. And I
So,
was going to make
comments.
the same request. that
Okay,
We've been a little unclear whether this is a regular meeting of the city commission or not a regular meeting, but
it's,
sometimes we say it is, in which
Okay.
case it would be appropriate, I think, to have commissioner
okay, but
comments.
let's limit it to 3 minutes because it's gonna just, let's, is that okay?
Uh,
5 minutes? 5 minutes, 5 minutes. We'll do. Oh, okay. Oh, so you got
sorry.
two. Okay, what's your second one?
The other was, new business A.
New business.
The Fourth Amendment to the retail
Yeah.
lease. I'd like to move that up because
Right,
it has timeliness to it and there might be
Fine.
some discussion about it. And so we could knock that out near the top of the agenda. I think that would be good.
okay, let's then put that after the consent agenda and not the. We'll put that, after the consent agenda. Just before unfinished business A, it'll be unfinished business. So we skip those two.
Okay, but
Yes?
why? I mean, there's nothing there that we're going to be talking about too much, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see those being.
Yeah, like, is it really going to make a difference between here and here?
I just wanted to make sure that we got to it.
It's-
Oh, we will.
It's
Oh,
new
yeah.
business
We know,
A.
it's right there. It's right there. Yeah, okay. I think we're good.
I don't think we should move that one.
Okay, so do we need a motion? to
We need a
approve
motion to add
Motion
on the
to-
comments.
Motion to approve as amended. I'm not sure what happened
The
to
comment,
Okay,
the
add
new
5
business A. Where did we finally move it?
No, we're not
gonna
moving
keep
it.
it there.
Okay.
But 5 minute commissioner comments. Thank you.
If I may make a public service announcement, which has nothing to do with anything, but it is sort of relevant. I had a small eye surgery on Friday an eye appointment on Thursday before the meeting then. And it means that I don't see at a distance. So if somebody is in front of me and says, why is Mr. Commissioner McVoy not recognize me? It might be that the little spots are floating right in front of you. Apologies in advance.
Duly noted. Thank you. Okay. Yes,
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, we had a motion to amend the agenda
Mm.
to add commissioner comments. We did not have a second or a vote.
I need a second.
I can second that, Commissioner May.
And all in favor?
Aye.
You made the motion, Commissioner May.
I think I did.
I think
I
Mr.
did
Mc-
not make the motion.
Mr. McVoy did, I believe.
Oh, okay, I apologize.
Okay,
The
thank you.
M's have it.
Okay. Alrighty, so here we go then. Presentation. A, electric utility update by our own Mr. Liberty.
Good evening, Commissioners and Mayor. For the record, Ed Liberty, Electric Utility Director. First up, mention this in case anybody hasn't noticed, it's been raining a lot. The
Yes.
system is well rinsed. And I do want to point out that the linemen have done an excellent job of keeping up with the presentation of their, not only their presentations, but keeping up with the outages as they come up. So we've had a lot of fuses and minor issues, but nothing really that earth shattering too major. System is doing rather well. However, the rains have knocked the load down. So customer energy use, and we look at what we call net to system, was the energy that we brought into the system for the month of September. Looks like it's going to come in about 5% below where it came in last year. And we generally budget on a 0.75% growth. So it looks like for September, it'll come in at 5% below. So you can do the math. On a year-to-date basis, we're probably about 0.7% below year-to-date. So that's about 0.15% below the growth that we expected. And that's not the end of the world. We're doing okay financially. We'll have a positive net income at the end of the year. I'm not going to give any numbers out tonight. That will come from Yannick when he closes the books and gives us the GAAP numbers. But we're doing okay. Another big thing for us has been the 6th Avenue South substation, which is no longer on 6th Avenue. It's one block south. That's under construction. And I got an update from David Martinuk, our Assistant Director of Engineering. We've been installing manholes, conduits, the piers are in. About 90% of the conduit is in, and the building is expected on site pretty soon, probably by the end of October. We're looking for likely operations sometime around Thanksgiving. So that will be a whole new era for us. That substation is going to be dramatically different than what we've seen before. It's going to be totally enclosed, stainless steel building rated for Category 5 winds. I'm told it'll take a wind burst of up to 200 miles an hour every 3 seconds and things like that. So it'll survive with battery storage for about 48 hours. And of course, have fiber optic communications. It'll be linked on the SCADA system with monitoring cameras, and it's going to be pretty interesting. So it's going to be quite good.
We hope you never have to test that.
Exactly. On the energy front, Rice Creek, the solar project with FMPA Solar, is expected to continue to operate well at 13 plus megawatts, came online actually in December of last year, went commercial in January, and that continues to do well. Whistling Duck, which is 20.9 megawatts for us. I don't remember all these names, Rice Creek,
I love that
Whistling
name.
Duck. We'll have to ask others how those names were brought forward, but that's going to start producing some test power this month. So I'm told that it's producing or it's running on schedule, and we should be in commercial operation hopefully in December. All appears to be on track to do that. The Stanton project retirement for us is still on target for the end of December. It's likely OUC will keep the unit in operation for their own purposes. FMPA is working on the necessary documents, which you'll all have to sign as we get closer to that date. I will mention that FMPA is in the house tonight. They were not invited, but everybody's welcome. They just wanted to make sure that you knew they were here. We have Jacob Williams, who's the CEO, and Chris Gowder on the team are here tonight as well. They don't have a speaking slot, but they just wanted to make sure you knew they were here and supporting our efforts.
Welcome. Thank you.
Next up for us is I'll turn it over to Alyssa Kirk, our compliance manager. She's going to update us on a successful audit with the federal regulators with respect to our new tie line operations.
Gotta turn on.
A little red ring somewhere or other becomes visible.
I'm on. Good afternoon, Alyssa Kirk, City of Lake Forest Beach, NERC Compliance Manager. Hi, nice to see you all again.
And you,
I clicked it. Did it go?
do you have guests coming in as well?
I do.
Okay. They'll be online, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So
I just promoted Peter. I can't pronounce your last name. I apologize.
Peter, this is Alyssa. If you can hear us. So he works with CERT.
Be able to lift it up because
Like
you're a little
this?
tall.
Yes, I am. I'm 5'7". Like this. Can you all hear me? Is that okay? Okay.
I'm here.
Thank you. Would you take a moment and introduce yourself, please? Peter, that was to you if you went back on mute. Okay, so the electric utility is governed by a set of federal regulations.
How about now?
We hear you. Perfect. Thank you, sir. Would you take a moment and introduce yourself? Okay, maybe not. So the electric utility is governed by a set of federal regulations, and I'm your NERC compliance manager. We have a set of 3 governing bodies, and Peter is with CERC. CERC gets its authority from a congressional act.
And could you tell us what CERC means?
Yes, it's actually coming up in my presentation, if that's okay. Let me go back one. So we're going to talk a little bit about the journey to the top, and TOP stands for Transmission Operator Registration. It's a lot to say fast. So we're going to start with leadership. Over the past 8 years, the City of Lake Worth Beach Electric Utilities leadership has pursued a very forward-looking strategy to increase the reliability of the electric service that we deliver to our customers, that we deliver to the people in this meeting and those who can't attend. And then to also, on top of that, increase the resiliency. These are things that are required by federal law to do, and it took a visionary leader to do that. And CERC is going to tell you a little bit about that vision in a moment, if he can talk. If not, I'll do it for him. A lot to keep up with. Reliability improvements. So you all approved a series of investments and bond funding to allow the city electric utility to make these improvements. And without you all and your approval, it would not have happened. We could not have done it. So I wanted to say that we have modernized our technology, replaced outdated hardware, updated infrastructure, polls, all the things that you all approve on the consent agenda or on new business impact us, the employees, as well as the community. So I wanted to make sure that I acknowledge what you all contribute to this effort. So thank you. The connection with Florida Power and Light, this canal substation, meant that the city has evolved technologically. It's a lot of words. Okay. And then the employees. Once you all approve the funds, we go through procurement processes. We go through legal. I don't want to turn around because my face will be away from the mic. We go through procurement. We go through legal. And there's employees that you don't see behind the scenes that I promised I would mention their groups today, starting with executive administration, systems operation. They're all on the screen. And I did say that we would make sure that you know there's a meter shop, that there's linemen, that there's all sorts of engineers back there, all working hard and really dedicated and committed to making the electric utility more reliable and more resilient. So as a result of these increased technological advances, the city of Lake Worth Beach was required to register to become a transmission operator. This is a registration process that is federal, and it is done with CERC. OUC agreed to be the lead on this. OUC is Orlando Utilities Commission. And that's because we needed a lead, and it was going to be OUC due to the agreement that you all had previously approved. So as part of this registration, CERC which is Southeast Reliability Corporation, came and did an audit. Actually, they've done 5 audits this year, and we have passed 4 with perfect scores. We're in the middle of the 5th. Yes, we're very blessed. It took all of us as a team. It took all of us as a team to go through this audit. And let me tell you what they assessed. So CERC built a certification team based on who we are as a utility, based on what we do, based on our size, based on all the technology that you hear about from Mr. Liberty. They built a certification team, and then they came in and assessed our processes. They assessed our procedures. They assessed our accountability. They assessed our rigor. They assessed how we do things and is it compliant with all of the laws that we have to meet. And we really appreciate. They assessed our personnel as well, and they did the same for OUC. They assessed OUC as well. They went on site, they talked to people, they interviewed people who are not used to being interviewed. And so it was really a great exercise. And they spent hours and hours and hours doing this, and we're very appreciative they did. So the results and determinations are simple. No findings at all that would prevent us from receiving our certification as a transmission operator.
Congratulations. And thank you for all the hard work. That goes to everyone.
Yeah.
I should point out that this is not just a merit badge. Without this certification, you can't operate.
Oh, correct. It's not a merit badge.
It's federally required, so it's not something that looks good on the wall and we cheer about it. Without it, you don't operate the new system.
Correct.
Very good to know.
Right. Right. So you can build it and then you need to comply in order to operate it. Correct. So we received numerous positive observations. One of the big ones is monumentally improved. CERC said, Mr. Peter actually said it, the city of Lake Worth Beach, as a team, we have monumentally improved our compliance, our reliability, and our resilience from several years ago. There, I'm being polite. And we wanted to make sure that we thanked OUC, the TOP service provider. The lead entity, Florida Municipal Power Pool, is our balancing authority. And then, of course, the interconnected entity, Florida Power and Light. The positive observations is that with everything that you all have approved and what the employees have accomplished, we are shifting to a stronger accountability, more resilient model. Congratulations to the entire team, all the employees. Thank you all for what you do to help us get this done.
And thank you all. I think I speak for everybody up here and our citizens. Thank you all, Mr. Liberty, on all the people that bring us lights. It has gotten, I've lived here for so long and it's gotten so much better. And I just want to I hope we can find a way to show our appreciations to all your workers.
I'm going to ask him. Mr. Peter, are you still on?
Hopefully you can hear me now.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I am.
Yes, we can hear you. I don't
I
know.
guess I would just like to say, and not much more I think I could add from Alyssa's presentation, but this was a long time coming. I think CERC has been working directly with Lake Worth Beach on this single engagement for about 18 months now, leading up to the interconnection with Florida Power and Light. And she's absolutely correct. The strides that the compliance group and the entire utility have taken in the name of reliability and risk reduction are honestly second to none. It was an enjoyable experience working with Lake Worth Beach, and we absolutely look forward to future engagements because it's not one and done being a transmission operator. If any changes are made, we will absolutely be back to see that everything's done correctly. So thank you. Appreciate the time today, and well done to the utility.
Thank you so much, sir.
So it's not every day that a federal regulators, it's been enjoyable working with you. So, but we're going to strive to have many, many more days like that.
Well, that's one that really, this is such good news. You've all done such an amazing job. Thank you so much.
It took vision, leadership,
Yeah.
and a team. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
A heck of a team. A heck of a team. Mr. McBoy?
Just a clarifying question, since we now are a certified transmission operator, and since we have a local and regional sewer interconnection, if the other communities don't pay their sewer bills, do we get to anyhow?
Thank
No, no.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. McBoy. Okay, now, have you given your update, Ed?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're up to Mr. Brian King. Presentation C, water utility update. Well, I was just reading off the screen. I thought maybe we weren't gonna, how are you? Welcome back. You left your little baby? You had to leave him?
Yeah,
Well, good to see you back and.
thank you.
Glad that it all went well.
Thank you. So Von Baker, Water Utilities. So first I want to thank Brian King for holding down the fort while I was gone. And I have compiled a couple things that I know came up in my absence, including that you all requested a presentation. So I've put something together just about some capital projects that I would like for us to highlight, and the funding sources, how we're spending our money and what we will be using the state funded money, the grant money in the future. So I Shayla's gonna grab that. So that's what I used to change it.
Yeah.
All right, so starting off with some capital projects, the first highlight being from our water fund. Oh, I lost it. Okay, so we obviously have the reverse osmosis plant at the water treatment plant. This was not only an expansion of the reverse osmosis capacity. Let me give it a second to come back up. All set? Awesome, thank you. So what you can see in the picture in our RO plant is each cluster is a train. So we have 3 trains. Each cylinder is a vessel, and inside the vessel are membranes. This project involved replacing the membranes in all of the existing vessels, as well as adding 6 vessels per train. So the top row on each of the trains, those 6 are new. And the replacement of the membranes is a maintenance activity. It's typical for the service life of those to be, I've heard, about 10 years, and ours had not been replaced since the plant was built in 2011, which is actually not negligent. It is a testament to our pretreatment. So we were able to get a couple of extra years out of those membranes. And this also improves efficiency, because when the membranes get older, it's requiring more pressure to force the water through. And that has, helped us with efficiency, power costs, and also PFAS. I know that you had requested kind of an update on PFAS. This gives us a little bit of extra capacity, the 0.75 million gallons per day. And that is, setting us up for the future. We can increase our blend ratio if we need to use more RO water compared to lime softened water. And overall, it's helpful. We will eventually need to construct additional trains, possibly plural, if we're going to, completely get away from lime softening. But obviously, we're making strides to start. For sewer, I wanted to feature manhole rehabilitation. I know that you guys have requested pictures, and this is a fun, dramatic reveal. So the total project cost, and I put since 2024 because this is something that's an ongoing practice for us. It is, somewhat of a maintenance activity where we're kind of in a rolling sequence of which manholes need to be attended to next. But since 2024, last year, we've spent $141,904. That's 2020 bond money. and we have rehabilitated 80 manholes. So as you can see in these bad looking pictures, the gases that come off of turbulent sewage is very corrosive. So the concrete does not do well for long periods of time. On the picture on the right, you see that it's a brick course and it deforms as the ground settles and as time just continues on, the grout erodes and it's kind of, it's not a circle anymore. So when this happens, these rough surfaces and you can see where the flow is like attempting to be directed in the bottom of the manhole, that's called a bench. So when the surface gets rough and the bench gets eroded and goes away, the wastewater slows down when it hits the manhole rather than continuing on. And this allows, solids and anything that might be in the sewage that shouldn't be to settle out. And that's how we end up with blockages. So manhole rehabilitation is very important. And here are the after pictures. So much better looking. It is a specialty concrete product that's used, sprayed on the walls, smoothed out. The benches can be rebuilt if they need to be in the bottom of the manholes. And then when you have a much smoother contact surface, the wastewater is not going to stop. It's just going to keep going where it needs to go.
How long does that last?
This lasts, since it's concrete, it's really structural. It's, structural integrity and just kind of the smooth look and helpful. But I would say, depending on how turbulent the wastewater is and how bad this H2S gas is, 10 to 20 years. So it's a semi-permanent fix, I would call it. For lift stations, we have the ongoing lift stations 5, 13, 15, 18, and 19 rehabilitation project. So this is mostly funded by ARPA. We were actually hoping to rehabilitate more lift stations, but when the costs came back in this volatile market, we had to scrap 2 lift stations that were planned. But this project is a compilation of various upgrades that just need to happen, all combined into one bid package for cost efficiency. So some lift stations are getting new pumps and valves, some are getting new controls, some are getting new communication systems, radios, as well as preparing for reliability. I won't say the H word, but adding permanent generators that have automatic transfers. So should there ever be a power outage, there's no interruption of service, which is very critical during storms. So that's ongoing now. One lift station, I believe 13 has been completed so far. And that one was especially critical because you can see the picture on the right. That's the control panel. It's a very strange lift station. The control panel is in an empty lot, but the wet well is in the middle of the road. And because of the upgrades that were needed, we've had a bypass out there for, I believe, a year now. So we really wanted to get that bypass pump away so the residents can enjoy their street more. But hopefully we'll be done with that one in several months.
This is local sewer. correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. For stormwater, we're highlighting the Parrot Cove project, which was recently completed. The total project cost ended up being $1,174,936 from ARPA and a DEP legislative grant. And this is the 4 stormwater outfalls along the coast of the golf course. They received inline check valves and maintenance structures. This is critical because when the high tides come, they back into our stormwater system and, the salt's not great and it's just clogging the entire system, leaving no ability to get rid of any wastewater. So it is a gravity fed system. If the tide is overtopping the outfall pipe, we're not going to get rid of any rainwater, but it's also not going to be backed up and overwhelming our system. And then this is the first in a series of 3 projects that are kind of on the around the coast of the golf course. And that's 10th and 13th Avenues North, which will happen next, and the Eden Place project. Also, I remember that you said that you had enjoyed show and tell. So in this picture, you can somewhat see the inline check valve. The water, this is the material that is used, and this isn't the exact brand, but the water comes in this end, and when the pressure builds up high enough, it allows the water to spill through the bottom. So if you guys want to pass this around and play with it.
More simple.
And this slide is just showing where the Parrot Cove project just occurred. The 10th and 13th Avenues North project will happen next. And the Eden Place Stormwater project will hopefully be putting out to bid very soon after the 10th and 13th Avenues North. So other than there's some additional scope in 10th and 13th where I think we're rehabbing some of the pipe because it wasn't in great condition. And Eden Place is actually adding some stormwater infrastructure. They are very similar in the sense that we are trying to fight off tides and sea level rise and make our system a bit more resilient. And with that, stay tuned because there's a lot more coming. We still have the dual zone monitoring well, which I found out the day after I had the baby that we received state funding for. So that was exciting. And we also received funding for a flooding area at 10th Avenue South and Dixie, which, you know, we consider a critical evacuation route. So I think that's what helped us get recognized by the state, as well as our combination project with Public Works for the Lake Worth Lagoon Initiative, where we're going to be able to rehabilitate and kind of beautify, you know, add vegetation, living shoreline at 9th Avenue South stormwater outfall and get some concrete trash receptacles for the downtown area.
Oh, yay.
So yeah, lots of big things coming and lucky to have gotten that funding. That was my presentation on projects. I also wanted to discuss, I found out when I came back that the odors on South Lakeside and Palmway have been a hot topic again. This is something that I could probably do its own presentation on. A quick understanding of the situation is that, well, not a quick understanding. I've done a lot of, you know, research looking into this, but with our sub-regional system, the town of Lantana sends their entire town's wastewater to us, which we collect at the master pump station and send to the ECR. And that's typical of all of our sub-regional partners. But for some reason, the town of Lantana's force main discharges into our gravity system right at that area. And as you can imagine, you know, talking about corrosive gas and the turbulence of wastewater, when the entire town of Lantana's sewage is being pumped through a pressure main and dumped into one of our manholes and then continued to the master pump station via gravity fed sewer, we do not have the ability to stop flow in those pipes or manholes. We have not been able to rehabilitate the manholes or line the sewers for, it's constant. When we have tried, from what I understand, because I was not here yet, but from what I understand from our team is that in the times that we've tried to stop Lantana's flow to perform some maintenance activities, it never fully stops. Looking into bypass pumping to complete these activities, it would take 4, I believe it was 18-inch bypass pumps, which I don't know how to convey to you how massive that is. It's not something you typically do for bypass pumping. And the last cost estimate we got for that, which was, I believe when I just got here in 2023, was well over $100,000 just for the bypass, not for the actual rehabilitation work. I have proposed to our sub-regional partners in that capital improvement plan that we just need to route the Lantana force main all the way to the master pump station. It will be a challenge. That's going into, you know, right-of-way corridors that already have lots of utilities, and it would take significant engineering design, but I don't really see an alternative for a permanent solution. So unfortunately, I don't have a happy update on the odor situation, but I do know that we have a really great team that is working for all of the temporary odor mitigations that we are able to do right now. And that is dosing with additional hydrogen peroxide, you know, cleaning up the area, sealing the manholes, everything as best as we can. But I truly believe that it needs a very expensive capital improvement project, which is currently slated in the CIP to begin in fiscal year 27. But at our next sub-regional meeting, I'm going to see if they would be amenable to bringing it closer.
Yeah, thank you. Great. Thank you. Great presentation. We have three lights on. First, Miss May, Mr. Sim.
Thank you and welcome back and congratulations.
you.
Can
Yeah.
you go back one, just to the map?
Yes,
So do you see the blue arrow?
yes,
So right there, that's the top of the golf course, right?
yes.
So we have had residents from that street coming and speaking with us specifically about when it's a king tide or high tide, the whole street.
Yes, that's the purpose of this project.
So, and that will start and end approximately when?
We need to put it out to bid. I believe the 100% design documents were provided while I was gone, so we should be able to get with our procurement team and get it advertised probably before the end of October, at which point we would start construction with the holidays. I would probably say top of 2026.
Okay, and there's no like short-term fix.
The short-term fix is sandbags. I don't think anybody really wants to hear that right now. And if you go out there, there's kind of like an old sandbag graveyard that
Yeah,
you
no,
can tell from
I've seen
previous
it.
storms.
Yeah.
But
But if that works until then, they might be amenable to it.
yes, and we are, you know, always willing to help. So if that's something that we want to do kind of proactively, we can certainly work for, because I know the king tide is coming and I've seen the photos. I can't imagine that level of flooding.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I mean,
yeah,
I'll help fill them, but we should do that for the people.
Really.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Segridge.
Thank you very much for the update and congratulations. and
thank
welcome
you.
back. When you were speaking about the lift stations, you mentioned that 2 of them had to be left out for budgetary concerns. Did we rebudget for that in our 2026 budget to get those done, or are they still unbudgeted?
It's rebudgeted. Well, hopefully with enough capital, considering it seems like you wait 5 minutes and the construction cost goes up 15% lately. But yes, it was actually the full project was budgeted back in, I believe, fiscal year 2022 or 2023, and then recognized that, and that was, I believe it was 2022 utility bond. Then it was realized, no, there's not enough money to do this project. So when the ARPA opportunity came up, we were able to secure the ARPA funding, and then we put it out to bid, and the engineer's cost estimate was about what we had in ARPA. And well, that's why we asked for the amount we did from ARPA. And the cost estimates came back, or the bids came back at more than $1 million higher. So we removed the 2 lift stations that were the least urgent to get done in this project, but it is budgeted and money was requested for the 2025 bond that we received earlier this year.
And what's kind of the schedule of completion for the lift stations?
It has changed a couple times already because the urgency keeps changing as different components of these lift stations need attention. So I would guess that we will be done in spring or summer of 2026.
And then talking about the Lantana situation, I'm assuming we have an agreement with them and the regional partners, and they're overflowing our system. Is this something that they are financially liable for to help us solve this problem, or is this entirely on us? Or does it go to the regional?
Regional. So I'm actually unsure if there's any stipulations in that interlocal agreement. Actually, Christy might know better than I do. But for when it's one single partner that an upgrade would affect, because there's not necessarily anything we have that fits into that box that I've seen so far. But the interlocal agreement would say that all 7 partners split the cost based on the percentage of capacity to our master pump station. So we have the largest percentage. I think after us is Lake Clark Shores or Palm Springs, but everybody pays based on their allocated capacity. So like I said, I'd have to look into whether it would fall like squarely on Lake Worth Beach and Lantana, or if it would still be divided 7 ways, but that is considered a sub-regional asset.
And you mentioned the bypass pumps, the 18-inch pumps, what was the total cost?
I would have to go back to look at the exact amount, but it was over $100,000.
Okay, and would setting up the bypass alleviate the problem in the short run?
Maybe. It would allow us to spend, I think the estimate of over 100,000, it was between 100 and $200,000. I just can't remember the exact amount. That I believe was for just over a week of bypass, which would only allow us to rehabilitate manholes. It would have to also be coordinated to rehabilitate piping. It possibly could alleviate some of the odors, but then it doesn't solve the permanent problem. We would have to come back and do it again. And because that station or because that manhole has such turbulent flow, it would just corrode again way faster than anything else we rehabilitate until Lantana's flow is rerouted.
Okay. So the bypass pumps are kind of a temporary solution and we would be essentially renting them?
Yes,
That's the cost.
and bypass pumps, that's not the solution. That's what allows us to do the work.
Work on, yeah.
So it's very temporary and it's also risky. Part of the estimate was 24/7 staffing, because if anything goes wrong with one of the bypass pumps, you better have a couple backups, because if you don't have a couple backups, there's the entire town of Lantana's sewage in the street.
And Commissioner, real quick on that, I believe last time we looked, it was, I think the estimated 3 weeks. So you're looking at that 100 and some thousand times 3 for the
That's a week.
bypass system. And that, again, that's just for the bypass, not the actual work itself.
Mhm.
If everything
Let's
goes,
put big fans in the air so that it goes, suck it to the intracoast.
Well, it's more than just
No,
the
I
the air, it's
understand. Of
going
course,
into the
I
homes.
understand.
So.
And for
I
the
know that-
residents, we, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
Go
off,
ahead.
but our department has offered to conduct smoke tests on plumbing at our expense, because that seems to be the only way that the odors could get into the homes. But, you know, outside in the streets, the city mains, it's pretty clear to me where the issue is coming from.
So would any kind of either, because I know there's a bunch of different strategies from a home that's experiencing that, where you can actually do a small lift at the home and do that, or any kind of innovative strategies like that being pursued to see what we can do for the homeowners in the time where we figure this out with our regional partners. Because I mean, it's a very big project. I mean, to reroute this, and it's going to take time. And like you said, there's multiple partners, finances and everything else.
That's kind of where I was saying that the temporary mitigation is, you know, additional odor control chemicals being dosed into the sewage. As far as from a homeowner's perspective, were you referencing like if they were to have private lift stations to take their sewage? I have a feeling, yes, that would help get the odor out of the homes, but that's extremely expensive.
How much is extremely expensive, or ballpark? Or I won't hold you to it.
If you were
Or you can
to,
get back to us.
I can get back to you. A very ballpark number would be if we were to try to construct a lift station that would collect the homes in the area to a single point and pump it into a force main, that would cost multiple millions, because that also requires a gravity system to pull in. If it were to be a private lift station at every resident's home, it would be at least $100,000 per home.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. McBoy.
I want to welcome back.
Thank you.
and Congratulations and good to see you. I didn't get to see the baby pictures and I grumble a little bit about
I will
that.
show
They
them
went
as much
straight.
as anybody wants to see.
thank you so much for having done the research on this. I've heard from residents in the area for a long time now, and it was always unclear what the source of the problem was. So this is a major, I mean, the solution is a big deal, unfortunately, and technically a big deal, but at least we have a clearer idea of where it's coming from. And that's worth a lot. So I appreciate that. Thank you for this. I noticed it was from Sweden, which I don't know if that's the one we got, but it's a cool design. So thank you for working on the storm outfalls and the backrooms. So I guess we'll all look forward to hearing what comes back from the regional and Lantana and all that. Hopefully some sort of cooperative cost sharing.
Yeah, well, definitely cooperative cost sharing, because I mean, other than the force main break, which we fronted the loan for, there's nothing that we pay for sub-regional assets that's squarely on the shoulders of Lake Worth Beach.
Right. And someday I'd be curious to know, why did they do forced up until the last, like a couple blocks?
I don't know.
That's wild.
One of our consulting engineers has been working with Lake Worth Beach since
Forever.
a very long time. He actually might know the history, so maybe I'll pick his brain and see if he can tell us what was going on there. But it could just be, that maybe that's where it needed to go years ago, and now it's not where it needs to go anymore. So,
Well, thank you very much for doing the research.
Is that does Mark Bruce?
Yes.
Julie,
Mhm.
Tom?
Yep.
Well, I
Tom,
guess,
yep.
yeah.
When I was city attorney in the nineties, he was there. When I came back, we're like, you're still here.
Mhm.
It's great, but that's the kind of institutional knowledge and history that we talk about. That's really
Yes.
important. Mr. Secretary says one more. thing.
Yeah, sorry, one more thing on that. I know in conversations, during heavy rainfall, we're getting a lot of that turbulent backflow, which is kind of indicating that stormwater is intruding into the system. So it's not just that Lantana's sewage has come to us, but during periods of strong rain, that seems to be when the problem is worst, right? How are we testing, or do we have the capability of testing where that water is coming in, whether it's on our end of the system that we're getting a tremendous amount of stormwater in, or is it Lantana's problem where they're somehow having a massive amount of intrusion? Because at least from the layperson's perspective, it would make sense that if this is really occurring when there's heavy rains, part of the problem, probably a huge aggravating factor, is that stormwater intrusion. So how can we look at that and see if maybe we can fix some of that, which could alleviate some of the problem for the residents?
So inflow and infiltration is a super common problem in sewer collection. Where it's coming from, whether it's Lantana or from us, we can send the camera through our pipes that are not overwhelmed 100% of the time. So that's the same as manhole rehabs. We address sewer pipe lining on a rolling basis as well. That's something that you'll see in the budget year after year. And for the pipes that are, upstream in our collection system, we can address I&I just by, sending our own camera truck out there and determining whether or not it needs to be lined. But for those pipes that are in the problem area, we can't even send the camera through there because you can't see because the pipe is full. If it's Lantana's issue, I don't know that we have any say over whether they fix their own inflow and infiltration or not, because ultimately they're paying us to convey their sewage through us by the gallon.
So I'm assuming we meter it as it
Yes.
comes through. During periods of high rainfall, do we see a massive increase in?
That would be easy to check. Let me look into
that might indicate whether the problem's upstream or downstream. I try sometimes.
And sometimes you make it.
But
Okay.
It's kind of a little-
thank you for your hard work on this. And I know it's important to a lot of our residents, and it's good to hear some very specific light be shed on this, and that we're working on the problem. Thanks.
Definitely.
Go home and get some sleep.
Go home and see the baby. I'm still not
Thank you
sleeping.
Ripping her away. Thank you so much.
Thank
Bill. You did a
you.
great job and quite a comeback. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is public participation of non-agenda items and consent agenda. Do we have any blue cards? Oh, we do. All right. Cheryl Rashkin, followed by Teresa DeVoe, followed by Edmund DeVoe, followed by Linda Brower.
Good evening, all. Cheryl Rashkin, 1302 South Palmway. I came here tonight to speak with all of you as the current president of South Palm Park Neighborhood Association. And I wish to thank the previous speaker and presenter, and I can't remember her name.
Vaughn Baker.
Vaughn.
Vaughn Baker.
Vaughn Baker. Vaughn, thank you. You've helped us a lot in some of the questions that we had, because I'm here to complain and bring forth some issues that we've had over the past few weeks with the extreme rain we've had and all the horrendous odors that many of the neighbors have had to endure. It's been bad for many, many years. Lately, it's gotten worse. You know, there were some time frames where we had some good days, you know, and then for a while we had none. So if you'll bear with me a minute, I wrote this prior to listening to this conversation, which helps a lot. So just recently, we conducted a brief survey of the neighborhood over the past weekend and received many responses of the problems of the sewage smell or sewage intrusion into homes. That's the biggie. This is not a small portion of South Palm Park, but from 6th Avenue South to 17th Avenue South on both Lakeside and South Palmway. So speaking on behalf of the membership regarding the problem that's been ongoing for many years, the horrendous smell of raw sewage that permeates into our homes and the backup of sewage into homes, making the use of our indoor plumbing not possible. Sewage bubbling out of the street manholes after a major rain. Yes, from the manholes that are marked sewer. We double check and my husband corrects me on which is which.
I'm sure he does.
The horrendous sewer smell as we go through our daily business of walking pets, grooming or trying to enjoy our yards, or just stopping for a conversation with our neighbors. We've addressed the issue with the utilities department as this occurs many, many times, but have been told it's not a city problem. At their direction, plumbers were called to snake the sewage lines, smoke them to see where the leaks might be, adding a special valve at the end of the lines to make sure that the sewage doesn't backflow. In fact, I think that's the name of the little thing. It's called a backflow valve. Or to replace the pipes in many of the older homes, because we are a historic neighborhood. We have a lot of older homes, but it's still happening. These things have been done many times. We've tried. We're tired of continuing to have the smells of sewage problems in our homes. Nothing has helped. And I mean, nothing so far has helped since
Thank you. That's time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
But we really appreciate it.
And I'm so glad it's timely that Vaughn was here to
Exactly.
do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Teresa DeVoe, followed by Edward DeVoe, followed by Linda Brown. Did we get any more cards?
Hi, Teresa DeVoe, 1106 South Palmway, AKA known as Smelly Palmway for the neighborhood associations. And this odor thing hasn't just come up again recently. We've been dealing with it for 5 years. I mean, smoke tests were probably 3 years ago and 4 directors ago. We've been dealing with this for years and we can't get anybody's attention. And my biggest concern is they keep dumping these chemicals into the sewer line so we don't smell the odor, which shows up at dinner time every day. And I can't get the answer of, okay, the odor in there, but are we still getting that gas in our homes? Because I've had chronic sinus issues for 5 years now. I live with chronic headaches, the red scratchy eyes, And I've been to sinus doctors, CAT scans of my sinuses, of my heads, videos of my sinuses. I've got an eye doctor that gives me special eye drops. If you look, and I've gone to an allergy doctor who gave me this 76 or 78 little pinpricks. No allergies. I'm not allergic to anything. So I was told it has to be environmental. And sewer gas is a toxic environmental substance. So whether we're smelling it or not in our homes, it's got to be coming in our homes, smell or not. This is a health issue. And to say it's not a priority, that it can be put off to 27, that's an insult to us. We've been trying to get somebody's attention for 5 years. We had a director, Mr. Sam, I don't know what his last name was. He actually came out to our park, spoke with the residents. He actually developed a plan, all these things that they were going to test all the way along to see if they could find the issue. We got the result. We got his plan. And the next time we called, because we hadn't heard back, he's gone again. That's part of the issue here. I think we've probably dealt with 5 or 6 directors in the 5-year period. It's hard to get anything rolling in anything. So I know it's a lot of money, but this is our health and our livelihoods. We can't live in our homes. It's dinner time is disgusting. I'm glad mine's more to the front of the house. It stays up there and we tend to eat in the back or outside. We can't use our homes. It's not our problem. It's the city's issue to
Is
deal
it just
with.
the past 5 years that it's gotten worse?
Yes. And I tell you, we've been told Lantana doesn't. I'm glad to hear because people keep trying to tell us we don't take Lantana. The more construction that's done in Lantana over the last couple of
Thank you.
years,
That's time.
horrendous.
Thank you very much. Good to see you. Mr. DeVoe.
Ed DeVoe, 1106 South Conway. How can I beat that? I want to talk about the technicality of what the director said about the sewer manholes. You have a sewer manhole can last you 50 years if you take care properly. However, if you're pumping and cause pressure, she showed you a manhole that had, he called it a bench, but actually a invert flow line. Flow line, you have the flow line in the manhole. That's how it drip, and work its way down to the lift station or work its way down to the pump station. That sewer is never supposed to exceed the flow line in the manhole. So we know that you're taking on Lantana, Floral Park, and whatever. What you really need here tonight, and listen to me carefully, you need a force main. The force main can be put in the right-of-way along Lakeside. In the right-of-way lines, you can put the manholes for the force main, which is not connected. It's connected through the manhole. It's only there if you have to go back and restructure something in the force main. You're looking at, just a guess, 2.5 mil, but it's well worth it. You can't put this off any longer. And it's not the first time we talk about this. I've been preaching this here, and I'm so happy. And congratulations for your baby. I've been preaching this for 5 to 7 years. And if it have gotten worse. Now, I'm wondering here this evening, can you redirect Lantana's sewer before it's really become a health hazard, before somebody really picks it up? I mean, I know we all need that money for our budget. I get it, but something has to be done for the health, safety, life. Don't let nobody tell you anything different tonight. Outside, the only thing going to fix this problem is a 4-inch or 6-inch force main. Grind the pumps at your new lift station. You have a lift station there, and that smell will go away because Miss Bauer, Linda Bauer, she cannot use her bathroom when Lantan is pumping their stuff through our gravity sewer. And actually, it's not your fault. I'm not putting any blame. This is before your time, before some of the other commissioners' time.
Thank you, that's time.
I know.
Speaking of time.
I think you
Thank
get
you.
it. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I think, yeah, we have definitely got it. Ms. Brower? I think, hi, it's good to see you.
Linda Brower, 1100 South Lakeside Drive. I have a real lot to say about the sewer issues that I have, and it's gone back maybe a little bit longer than 5 years, but it has gotten horrendously worse. We live in a very low house. It was built sometime in the 40s. And in, I think around 2000, we replaced all of our plumbing. You guys hooked us up, but I want to focus more on what we have been experiencing in September. In the past, we've had backups also. I've had general plumbing out. They've put the cameras down. They couldn't find a blockage. It would just dissipate like overnight. It would be blocked up. I couldn't flush and it would go away. It typically starts gurgling sounds in my sinks. Then we can't flush our toilets. However, this month, and I'm going to read the dates. Every week this month in September with the heavy rains, I had guests leave because of the sewer smell in my guest room. On Labor Day morning, I was unable to flush on September the 5th. City came out with cameras to check our line and found nothing. We have a little bubble, but general plumbing says that's not going to cause anything. And there was nothing there anyway. And that was on Monday, September the 8th. Again, we were unable to flush on September the 11th. Most often, as I said, the line clears overnight. Sunday, September the 14th, we again could not flush. Again, starting September 17th, all day September 18th. The city came out on the 19th with cameras and found no blockage. That weekend, on Sunday, September the 21st, we were again unable to use our plumbing. The city came out and told us the pipes were full. They even brought out one of the big trucks with the hose things on it. They said they were unable to help us, even with the big suction trucks. And then on Monday, they said they added an auxiliary pump. I can't do my laundry. I can't use my home. I don't even know that that's legal. I can't. I have to be able to use my plumbing. And this is very, very bad. It's been depressing. That's all.
Yeah, I had
Thank
not heard
you.
about the backups actually, and I have a little condo on 2nd Avenue, 3rd Avenue South and South Lakeside. And sometimes the bathtub backs up and I always kind of thought it was from maybe other condos, but maybe it's not. So we hear you loud and clear. Vaughn is here. I think we need to, just really pay.
I've been told
Vaughn is
that,
taking notes.
but I've been told that the pipe is hooked up too low. Well, if it's hooked up too low, you guys hooked it up, fix it. I've had smoke tests. If you're going to smoke test my house again, smoke test every house in our neighborhood that has the problem. I am really tired of people pushing it back on the residents when you all know we have an infrastructure issue. It's not our fault.
Well,
Thank
Vaughn,
you.
You're speaking to
Thank
the right
you.
person tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, I did not know about the
And
backup.
I'm
Okay, thank you. All right, and that's the last of the public comments. Thank you very much. We do hear you, and it's fortuitous that Vaughn is here tonight, Ms. Baker is here tonight because she heard it firsthand. Oh, and now you're getting the card. Okay. Approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unfinished business. A, update on the supplemental wholesale electric energy and capacity procurement RFP and selection of providers for negotiation. Mr. What? For public participation on non-agenda items?
Hi, this is Jonathan Nunes. Can you hear me?
Give us just a second.
Okay.
For new business, are there anybody saying they have a card in for public participation of non-agenda items? Okay, if it's for new business A, your cards will be, we'll call you. Okay, thank you. Okay, update on supplemental wholesale electric energy and capacity procurement RFP and selection of providers for negotiations. Mr. Liberty, take it away.
Good evening. For the record, Ed Liberty, Electric Utility Director. Get a little bit of background as we get into this subject. We do have our consultants from Enfront Consulting will be online, and they'll take over in a minute after I do an introduction. To set the stage for this, as an electric utility, we purchase roughly 500,000 megawatt hours of energy per year that we redeliver to our customers. Approximately 50% of that comes from our own generation entitlements. So what are those? Number one, it's our own power plant, which produces less than 0.5%, probably, or 1% of what we use, as well as our position in various projects through FMPA. FMPA being the Florida Municipal Power Agency, projects that we've been involved since the 1980s. For example, the St. Lucie project, which is a nuclear plant, the Stanton project, which is a coal plant, which, as I indicated earlier, will retire at the end of this year, and the Rice Creek and Whistling Duck solar projects. So our entitlements, which are things that we have an interest in as owners, and obligated on bonds, which, by the way, I should have mentioned this earlier on, that Fitch has completed its review of the St. Lucie bonds and has rated them positive. And that is important to us, and certainly important to FMPA, who I know is in the audience tonight, because we are the single largest participant of the municipal group in that particular project. So as goes Lake Worth Beach's credit rating, often goes the rating of that project. So Fitch was quite pleased, I think, with what they see in terms of improvements, and they moved from stable to positive with an A rating. So that was good. We're a part of that. We don't take complete ownership of it, but we're happy for FMPA that's happened. So where does the rest of our energy come from? Well, it comes from the supplemental contract, and the supplemental contract is one that goes out for bid, generally in a range of 4 to 7 year term. We are coming to the end of the second 7-year contract. The first 7-year contract was with OUC. That's when the city exited the FMPA All Requirements Project circa 2013. That ran its course. We went out for bid in 2018, and OUC won the bid again effective January 1 of 2019. That 7 years is running its course. It expires at the end of this year. And we have retained Enfront Consulting, with your approval, to take us through the process of rebidding that contract. So we're not going to ask you for an approval tonight, as the document said. We're not quite ready, and Enfront is going to give you an update on where we are in the process. At this point, I'll turn it over to Jonathan Nunes and have Jonathan take over, and you have some slides which we'll make available to the public. There's some extra copies if they want to see them, and this will be posted on the website as well.
Great. Thank you, Ed. Again, this is Jonathan Nunes of Enfront Consulting. I also have a colleague of mine on the line, Steven Stein, again, also from Enfront Consulting. So I'm going to try to share my screen here. And I'm hoping that's working. Just give me a good thumbs up.
Yes, you have it.
Great.
It
Perfect.
works.
Okay. There we go. Great. Yeah. So the agenda is we're just going to look at the a summary of the bids that have come in. For purposes of this presentation, we will not identify bidders, and we will not provide numerical details of the bids, as that's something we want to put into a future presentation to this forum. So we've got a summary of the bids that have come in. We want to look at an impact on how the different bids determine monthly net peak demand. So as Ed mentioned earlier, you have a range of resources that serve your load, and then the supplemental contract serves the remainder. So that would be your net demand. And depending on how that net demand is determined for purposes of setting up your billing demand, how your demand is actually billed to you, has a pretty big impact on the actual charges. So there's some fair differences in the different bids that have been offered that I wanted to sort of illustrate for you. And then I'm just going to go over the bid evaluation process, what we've been doing for the last couple of months, and then just some additional considerations that we have in mind that need to enter into the process, and then just give you a sort of update on where we are in the process and what the next steps are. Feel free to ask questions at any point or hold to the end at your discretion. So these are the 3 bids that have been received. Again, we're not going to identify the bidders. The bid term for each is from 4 to 7 years, as we requested. The bids are running from left to right, bid 1, 2, and 3. And then just focusing on bid 1, this is a tiered capacity product that's being offered. They're offering a base and an intermediate capacity product, which the base would be up to 40 megawatts. Lake Worth's peak demand is in the 100 megawatt range, and you've got roughly 40 up to 60 megawatts of resources. So that base demand portion would be 40 megawatts, and then the intermediate would be all other capacity that was nominated. In this bid 1, Lake Worth nominates how much capacity you want from each category, or each what I'm calling a tier in this case. So by the first day of the month prior to the month of service in question, Lake Worth would determine how much they want to nominate of each category of capacity product, each capacity product being priced differently. The capacity products are priced on a $1 per kilowatt month basis on a varying price each year, which for this bid is escalating every year. So every year has a capacity price for each tier on a $1 per kilowatt month basis that then escalates over the term of the contract. And then for energy pricing for each product is based on a heat rate index, what's called in the industry heat rate index, off of a gas price, which was what we had requested of the bidders. So what that does is for all of the bids that we received, the energy pricing is all based on a similar natural gas price multiplied by a heat rate that we can then more easily sort of determine and consider the various pricing parameters for each of the bids.
Hey, Jonathan, this is Ed. Let me interject for a moment here.
Sure, go ahead.
So let me put some of this through the translation box, because I imagine everybody wants, including the audience, wants to look smart and say, yeah, this is good. What does this mean?
Okay.
So when we talk about capacity, we talk about dollars per kW month. Think of that as the payment to have the plant there ready to serve you. And more often, as we see going in the future, that's tied more and more to what it's going to be worth over the next 7 years. And we're not going to disclose pricing, but that's the way people look at it. So think of this as a payment on a car. So you want to have that car in the driveway to go for a ride, you have to make a payment on the car, right? So that's basically the payment to have that plant there ready to produce energy for us. The variable component is the dollar per kilowatt hour. That's the energy rate. And we talk about the heat rate. Heat rate is a engineer's term for efficiency. That's how many BTUs of energy, how much energy you have to put in the plant to get a unit of useful electricity out of the plant. So that's an efficiency calculation. So what we do is we ask the bidders to essentially bid the efficiency of their energy conversion device, and we're willing to pay them the cost of the gas at an index, which is publicly discoverable. The efficiency number is their number. We won't disclose those here tonight, but it yields a price. So we can use that formula with a published index for what natural gas has been delivered for to calculate what we paid to use the plant to produce a unit of energy. And then we also pay them to have the plant available to produce energy. We have to buy both those assets. You can't have one without the other. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, Ed. That's some great background. So in addition to the heat rate index-based pricing, there's also typically a variable O&M adder So that compensates the seller for operation and maintenance cost at the plants in question on their system that sort of underpin the offered energy and capacity. So bid 2 is a bit different. Again, it's a 4 to 7 year term. But in this case, the bidder is going to be serving the requirements of Lake Worth above your resources without you needing to sort of nominate a specific amount of capacity. In that case, the capacity determination is just based on your net demand requirements on an after the fact basis. So, for example, if you need 60 megawatts in a particular month, you would just be paying for that 60 megawatts, whereas under bid 1, you might be nominating ahead of time 40 megawatts of base capacity and 20 megawatts of intermediate capacity. So in this case, you don't need to do a nomination process. It's just sort of determined after the fact and priced accordingly. So here again, there's an escalating rate for that capacity on a $1 per kilowatt month basis. Each year, the price goes up by a particular percentage. And then here again, energy is priced on a heat rate index basis plus a variable O&M adder, very similar to the bid 1 parameters. Bid 3 is further different. It's also offering to serve your net requirements above your resources without a sort of nomination process. But the capacity determination is a bit different in terms of how they determine your net demand requirement on a month-to-month basis. It's based on a determination of your maximum hourly net demand. Bid 2 is looking at your net demand requirements during the time of your peak, whereas bid 3 looks at it a bit differently, and it's looking at the maximum net demand on an hourly basis for the month. So whenever that maximum net demand in the month occurs, that's your net demand for the month. And further, there's a ratchet, what we refer to as a ratchet, which is basically saying that in any month when they make that determination, your billing demand would actually be the maximum of the preceding 12 months. And what that sort of does, and I think the intent of that aspect of the bid is that the bidder has to arrange for resources to serve Lake Worth's load throughout the entire year. So to the extent your demand requirements might be a lot lower in the spring and fall, for example, they still have to have resources lined up to serve your peak demand in the summertime. So what they're attempting to do with that structure is to set a more of an annual capacity requirement that you would pay for sort of year round to have that, as Ed put it earlier, have that car available to drive whenever you wanted to. So that's further quite a bit different from the other bids for that reason.
To give a little bit further comfort here, let's remind everybody that we're talking about 50% of the energy that we need. So the other 50% of the energy, set aside capacity for the moment or demand. The other 50% of the energy is going to come largely from nuclear and solar. So as we go into 2026, about, let's call it 33% of our total energy is expected to come from nuclear. Another 17% or so would come from solar between the Rice Creek and the Whistling Duck sites. So those are going to be at known prices, unrelated to swings in carbon fuel prices in the marketplace. So the other 50% is going to be tied to natural gas fuels. Some people say that's good news. Some people say that's bad news. Why one way or the other? Well, 50% of our portfolio being tied to natural gas is significantly lower than what many of the utilities in the state are looking at, which is probably in a range of 70 to 80+%. So we have lower exposure. On the capacity side, though, we need to buy more capacity because we don't have as much. So, for example, 35 megawatts of solar, it does not give you 35 megawatts of capacity because it gets dark at night and the sun doesn't shine, right? But it also has cloud cover. So you have to adjust for how much capacity you need. And the role of this contract is to adjust on an hourly basis to make sure that the lights don't go out here. There's always enough energy flowing to us between what's coming to us under contracts before we engage this company and what we'll have afterwards, right? So they have to balance it. That's a part of the service. That gives you a little bit more perspective on what we're doing here.
Great. Yeah, thanks for that, Ed. Again, sticking on bid 3 here, the capacity pricing is again, here it's a fixed price, every year with the slightly higher pricing during the extension period. And then the energy pricing is very similar to the others based on a heat rate index with a variable operation and maintenance adder. One difference here with bid 3 is that they're offering economy energy to replace GT2's operation. So in bid 3, they're assuming that GT2 is a potential capacity resource, but at any time that they have resources on their system that are cheaper than GT2, they would replace GT2 on an economy basis based on the operation and cost of the resources on their system.
By the way, just further clarification, GT2 is our gas turbine number 2, and we also have gas turbine number 1. We typically nominate gas turbine number 2 for capacity purposes and rely on it. However, keep in mind that that's a 1975 vintage unit. It is fairly reliable, knock on wood. 2017, 2018, we spent about $1.2 million rebuilding it. So it's a fairly good unit, operates on natural gas. If we tend to keep GT1 in backup to GT2. So in the event that GT2 doesn't perform, we would rely on GT1, which is about the same vintage, but it burns oil, basically diesel fuel.
And what are the capacities again on 1 and 2?
GT2 off the top of my head, I want to say is roughly 20 megawatts.
That's right.
And GT1 is about 25 megawatts.
So they're not insignificant. I had remembered them as small.
Not to Lake Worth Beach, no. And our peak is about 103.4, 104 megawatts or so. And that's the highest we've reached in a summer month. We don't need that amount every single month because obviously, or maybe not obviously, the amount of energy, our peak in, for example, February is nowhere near what the peak would be in August.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is that your question for your light, Mr. McBoy?
No, that's separate, but that can wait for the moment.
Okay, great. I'm going to move on here. So just thinking of the key takeaways here, bid 1 is really most similar to the current arrangement that Lake Worth has with OUC because you nominate the base and intermediate capacity that you want on a monthly basis. So you have flexibility to make those nominations really very close to the actual timing of the capacity need. That allows you to determine your own resource mix because typically for a base load asset, you're going to pay more on a capacity basis and a bit less on an energy basis, whereas an intermediate resource is typically going to be cheaper on a capacity basis, but a little more expensive on an energy basis. So you could determine your own resource mix as well as the level of reserves. So the idea here is that you might look at your capacity and demand situation that you're likely to see in the coming period, and you want to leave yourself a little bit of extra reserves. In other words, buying a little more capacity than you think you need in the event your load comes in higher than you expect, or some other issue is occurring, like low production of solar during a peak hour, for example. So you might nominate a little bit extra intermediate capacity to help serve those peak demand periods. But that also involves some risks. If you over nominate resources, you're going to be paying more for capacity that you really don't need. Or if you nominate too little, you're going to wind up being short of resources and really having to scramble on the days and hours before a peak demand event to try to line up resources. The idea here under bid 1 is that the bidder would use its sort of best efforts to serve you if you ran out of resources, but service might end up being on a fairly expensive basis, having to line up capacity at sort of the last minute, so to speak. Bid 2 is more of a requirement service arrangement where you get capacity credit for your resource on a fairly specific basis. St. Lucie, the nuclear unit, and the gas turbine 2 would be credited based on a sort of dependable capacity basis, an engineering kind of estimate of what kind of level of capacity you can count on, recognizing the sort of forced outage possibilities of those plants. St. Lucie has a reliability exchange agreement that helps to dampen any kind of fluctuations of St. Lucie's availability. Unless one of those two assets was in outage for the entire month, but you'd be credited for those capacity resources. For your solar asset, your entitlement to FMPA solar you would be credited based on the output at the time of the peak demand. So we'll come back to that in a minute, but the output of solar is highly variable, as we've talked about. It's an intermittent resource. And even during the middle of the day or in the sort of afternoon kind of period, you sometimes get cloud cover or rainstorms that might limit the output of solar during those hours. So there could be some situations under bid 2 where the FMPA solar entitlements would be on a reduced basis. So you might end up incurring a greater amount of capacity needs during those kinds of periods, which we'll come to here in a minute. Bid 3 again, provides a requirement service kind of arrangement where the capacity credit that you're getting for your resources is really just based on the extent of generation during all the hours of the month. Tended to be that the peak hours of the month, it's the combination of your peak demand and the resource entitlements that you have on an hour-to-hour basis are going to determine what your monthly net requirement is. So it's a fairly different kind of arrangement. And then, of course, with the 12-month ratchet, that could mean that your billing demand is really going to be set, could be set for the entire year on a particular month. So even in lower load months, you're going to be paying significant demand charges.
Balance billing. It sounds like it, yeah, at a high rate.
Maybe
Okay,
this,
well, Mr. Baker, well,
hold
I'm
on.
going back to staff. I'm not calling on you. I'm going back to staff now. In terms of the presentation, are we there?
We have a few more slides to go.
Okay, let's keep
Yeah,
going.
but the gentleman specifically said that we could ask questions during the presentation, which I think would be helpful.
Sure.
And
Sure,
if
yeah.
the
All right, go
Presenter,
ahead.
a question on the second bullet for bid 3. You mentioned that we might be in a situation where we're paying a high demand because it's based perhaps on a high month, but wouldn't, and obviously I don't know the whole algorithm that they're using to calculate this, but wouldn't it be calculated, or couldn't we ask that it be calculated more off of a median month, an average month? Do they get to decide that it's hooked to the high demand month?
Well, again, utilities need to line up resources to meet the peak demand of a system year round. So, most utilities plan to serve their peak demand during the, wherever their peak demand period, typically in Florida, it's going to be in your summer
August,
months.
September.
Yeah, so utilities need to sort of plan on that basis and line up resources, have resources in the ground ready to serve that peak demand, even if your load in other times of the month is not as high. So what this bidder is attempting to do is kind of translate that same kind of obligation down to Lake Worth. Perhaps the other parameters of the bid can kind of make up for that in a sense. But any bidder that's going to be serving your load needs to have resources lined up to serve your peak demand. And assuming it's a utility with a similar sort of load situation as you, they really can't sort of balance out your high load in the summer with load that they might have that's a little bit lower in the summer, because typically most utilities in the peninsula are going to be peaking in the summertime.
I think this may be an overly simple way to look at this, but let's say you wanted to lease a car, but you want to negotiate a deal with a lease company that says, look, I'm hardly going to use this thing in the winter. So can I have a lower lease payment in the winter? They say, well, no, you bought the whole car.
Right.
You have that car available to you for, in this case, 4 or up to 7 years, you need to pay the lease payment. So that's the way they're looking. They're setting aside a piece of their system or a piece of a unit to support the city of Lake Worth Beach. And in this particular bid, and other bidders may have bid otherwise, a more variable portion, but this particular bid's feature is it's a fixed amount year round, and they may have other balancing features. So that's a part of the analysis that Enfront goes through and says, well, when you take these bids and you crank them through our typical year, what does the price that we pay at the end of the year? What's the size of the check that we write over a 12-month period and ultimately over the life of the deal? Which is the better one for us with our profile? So there's a lot of analysis and spreadsheeting that goes into that calculation.
Right. No, I get that. And I certainly get that anybody selling juice in Florida, the peak is going to be very similar to ours. The monthly peak is going to be similar. But it still seems, and your analogy is helpful, Mr. Liberty, with the, leasing the car. But in reality, if the cost to the leasing company is based on wear and tear on the car, then in fact, basing it on the highest month of usage is unfair to the person buying it. And you could perhaps negotiate and say, hey, I get that you need to have 100 megawatts or half 100 megawatts at some portion of the year for a couple of months, but you don't need to have it for the rest of it. And we sort of know that. We know what our cycle looks like annually.
Well, we've
with
looked
a
at it
fair
for
amount.
many years now. It's a very good point, and that's why there's multiple bids.
Yeah.
And then Front is going to weigh those out one against the other to see which is the best option for us to pursue.
I have a question.
Well, I still have a couple more. One question on bid 2. This whole question of capacity and solar fields, there's 2 aspects to the capacity thing. One is the variability over the course of the year. It has nothing to do with the source of the energy. And the other is the variability that is associated with your, that's why they call them variable sources, solar in that case. And it was mentioned that, and we all know about afternoon storms in Florida, but what we also know about afternoon storms in Florida is they tend to be quite local. We don't get socked in like the Northeast where it covers huge areas, the whole state or something at a time. And so my question was, do we get any credit or can we argue for any credit from the fact that we have 2 different solar fields? I don't remember how far apart they are, but they're not right next to each other. And so you could argue that the chances that both are getting hit with a rainstorm at the same time is actually fairly small. And I say this partly from being out in the Everglades a lot, where we don't care about rain, but we care a lot about lightning. And so you can see all around, and storms are typically quite localized. And if you sort of know where they're going, you can kind of hedge your bets a little bit. I wouldn't run an electric utility on that, but the concept that storms in Florida tend to be quite localized, so that, again, what I'm saying, the chance, I would say we ought to argue for some sort of capacity credit because we have 2 separate fields, in addition to the size of the fields, but I suspect that the size of the field is pretty similar to storm size, so I wouldn't argue it there.
Jonathan, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, sure. So the 2 solar sites that you have entitlements to, one is Rice Creek has already been online. Whistling Duck is coming online here over the next few months. They are geographically dispersed, and the way these bids will be looking at that is what is the actual output of the resource. And if in bids 2's case, it will be looking at what is the output of those resources at the time of the peak demand. So it will be based on actual measurements at the time of the peak demand. The challenge, I guess, in a lot of cases is that your peak demand in the summertime, for example, tends to be very late in the day. And it's happening across the peninsula that peak demands in the summertime have been happening later and later in the day. It used to be very reliable that the peak demand would be at 5 p.m. Across most utilities, but that has a lot of times been 6 p.m. for certain utilities, and Lake Worth is certainly one of those utilities. So the later you get in the day, the less your solar output is. And but you're right about the diversity aspect. You've got 2 solar resources that are fairly similarly sized that are geographically dispersed. You will benefit from that diversity for sure.
But, and obviously that argues for the folks that are doing storage that can even if it's short-term storage and you get 4 hours, 8 hours, that would shift from your generation peak out of the solar field at say 2 p.m. to shifting it into the usage peak. So someday, cross our fingers, we'll add storage to those fields, and that would help us a lot.
Well, actually, we will. We have
absolutely.
a DOE grant to do that.
Locally, but at much smaller scale. If I remember right.
Yes, but what we're going to do is in the coming months, we'll be issuing the RFP to select an engineer to take us through the sizing of solar projects. So we will have, in theory, locked down our procurement. We'll both projects we're running plus our own project will be running, and we'll be able to determine what size solar or battery energy storage project we need and how it's going to cycle, how it's going to operate. The nuance of solar, obviously, the sun is the brightest at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. That's where you're going to get the maximum production. Although these are tracking systems, so they do
It does
they
a
do
little
track.
better. Yeah.
But our peak need for energy, and I'll make sure that that wasn't lost when what Jonathan said. Our peak need for energy as a city happens as the sun is setting.
Going down.
Yeah.
So while we'll have roughly 35 megawatts of solar in our portfolio nameplate rating, how
Right.
much of it is actually going to be available at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock PM? Not all of it.
Right.
So we're only going to get
Certainly not.
capacity credit for a portion of it. For energy purposes, it's a wonderful machine,
Right.
right? It's going to deliver all the energy we
Right.
need during the day. But when we hit our peak, how much of it can we actually use toward our peak? Remember, our peak is upwards of 104 megawatts, and we're going to have to fill that with plain old fashioned steel spinning with natural gas
Yeah.
pushing it.
Mhm.
I had one other or two questions related to bid one, where that was the one where we have to nominate a month in advance, or I guess a
Right.
month in advance. And it seems to me a key question there, separate, well, one question obviously is, do we want to do that? Is that something we want to be in the business of doing? And that's not my answer. That's more for staff. In the back of my mind is that we have a pretty good idea of the annual cycle. It's basically temperature driven. We've looked at that for a long time. It varies a little bit from day to day, but from month to month, not hugely. So that helps as far as nominating.
We've actually been doing that for the past 7 years. We
That's what I
nominate in
thought.
advance.
Yeah.
Assistant Director Brian King has gotten quite good at it. The key is not to under nominate where you don't have enough resources lined up to meet the load. Now you're paying a lot of money.
Right. And
'cause
you
you're-
don't want to be in
think
that
of it as,
situation. And you get penalized the other way, maybe not quite as hard if you're over.
But we've gotten quite good at it. We're comfortable at it.
And that was my two questions. One is, how confident do we feel on the nominating? And I think the answer is probably pretty good. And then, separate from our feeling about the nominating, as we look back on how we've done, because we have the data, we could look back and compare them. And one of the things that pops out to me is that it seems like with the PCA, which is primarily related, it's not capacity, it's energy.
No, capacities, purchase capacity is in the PCA.
Okay, they're both in there. then.
Yes.
It seems like we've had some difficulty that our revenues and our expenditures seem to not line up as well as I mean, I had the sense that we're pretty confident in our nominating ability, and yet it seems like revenues and expenditures are annoying. And I get that some of that is people don't pay their bills, which is annoying.
Well,
and the lags and all that, but
Right,
you
that's
can
that's
back calculate
yeah, that's the
lags.
lag on the cash coming in, which is 30 to 45 days after the meter read has gone. But it's also what's happened to natural gas prices. So we forecast based on the futures markets,
Sure.
what they tell us, and then we pay on what the market actually did.
Right. And
So
that
if we could get
relates
that
to
right,
that.
we'd be having another conversation. So,
Mhm.
That's where the question about, do we want to be involved in the nominating? Does that, that seems like that's a key part of that bid one that.
right, and that's part of what one bidder has put on the table is, hey, maybe you don't need to worry about it. We'll set your nomination based on your historic number, and that's
Or you pay what you used.
right.
which-
Exactly. So there's
Okay.
different options, and that's
Yeah.
what Enfront will model for us.
Okay,
Cool.
thank you. Well, I had a question, just, you said that the first one is the most similar to the OUC.
Right.
And have we ever had a problem with supply when we needed it with that contract?
No, we have
I
not.
mean, it's been
they're
reliable, it's been,
Very, very reliable. I mean, there's been a few close calls. Typically, the biggest issue that we have is once we make the nomination, they have to line up the transmission to get it here. So it's like making a reservation, right? You show up at the airport, there may not be a plane on, a seat on the plane, right? So it's getting that nomination locked in and getting the transmission to be able to get the power here. It's on occasion, and this is rare, it's looked like, well, we might have to start up our own units because the transmission may not be available. That's very, very rare. On some occasions, we've been able to, OUC works that out and finds a way to get it here, and it hasn't been an issue.
okay, so you've been, the contract that we've had, you've been satisfied with, it served us well.
Yes, yes. The how it functions, that contract has been very useful and a good tool for us.
And just
Mr.
a
McVoy?
timing question, if we had to, the fact that we have 20 megabits, 20 megabytes, 20 megawatts on site available with GT2, what's the lag time to get that running? And how does that lag time relate to possible nomination shortages? Are the nomination timescale difficulties on the scale of weeks, days, months? And the fire up time for GT2 is on the scale of, I'm guessing, a few hours, 10 hours, I don't know.
No, actually, during peak times of the day, we have staff on site. It'd probably be 30 minutes or less.
So that would suggest that we could absorb in a contract some nomination risk. And if we had to, we should crank the thing up and away we go.
That's what we've been
And
doing.
20 megawatts is likely to be big enough to cover whatever shortfall might.
That's what we've been doing, and we're
And we don't
hesitant
do
to-
it very often.
Right, and we would rarely ever nominate GT2 and GT1. So if GT2
You got
didn't
even
start up,
more.
we have it backed up with GT1, and on an absolute emergency basis, we have the M units for 10 megawatts, and they'll be up, they can be up
That's
within 10 or 15
yeah.
minutes probably.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're asking us tonight to approve or disapprove the selection of bid 1, 2, or 3, or tell me, that's what it
ma'am.
says here.
No,
And I
ma'am.
just want
Yeah,
to,
No.
we when we put this together, we're thinking that we'd be ready to ask you
Okay.
for that. So I'm jumping ahead on Jonathan's. Actually, Jonathan, you want to explain what you've asked the bidders for, which we're now waiting for a few more weeks?
Sure, yeah. What we've requested from them is a draft contract, number one. Number two, an estimate of charges for a single year. And then third, we've asked them to indicate their willingness to sell a long-term entitlement to a base or intermediate load resource at some point in the future during the contract term.
Okay.
So to explain what that means.
so there's more.
Yeah,
work.
Yes.
What does that base or long-term resource mean? So I just did literally a quick little calculation here. In this year, we've retired roughly 45 megawatts of generation capacity from our portfolio. That was our S3 unit and our S5 unit, and with Stanton going away. So think of this as 45 megawatts of generation resources, albeit very old and very dirty, are coming off of our books. As we go into 2026, we will have added 35 megawatts of solar, which doesn't perform like 35 megawatts of steam, right? I'm not passing judgment one or the other,
Just
but
different.
let's assume for the moment that we, out of the 35 megawatts of solar at any given time, as you get close to peak, that might be worth maybe 15 megawatts. These are very rough numbers. So what we have is a gap of about 30 megawatts between where we were and where we're going to be in the future. And my thinking as your director, my responsibility to you is to say, you may not want to be in a marketplace 4, 5, 6, 7 years from now where you need more capacity. So think of this almost as retirement planning. How much do you want to have in, not that we're all about to retire, but how much do you want to have in stocks? How much do you want to have in bonds? So we're heading into an environment where new capacity is going to be very expensive, and where we've retired our older capacity, and the capacity that we kept is still very old, right? So I'm speculating, looking ahead, and I don't know that 7 years from now, all of us will be in these same seats, right? So what are we passing forward? So what we wanted to do was to test the waters and say, is there an opportunity to acquire some capacity so we have more control and we're not buying as much in the open market? I wouldn't say to go to 100%, build our own plant, but can we, through contracts, so synthetically through these contracts, get more capacity has a longer term look to it to get us by that? I worry too much about going into the market for bigger and bigger chunks of our needs and being exposed to what market prices may be. So we've benefited, for example, on the purchases that were made in the 1980s. And now we think, what's the legacy we leave? Do we leave people, the next generation, exposed to the market completely? Or do we try to firm some things up? Now, we don't know what that right number is. So what Enfront has done for us is to test the waters a little bit through this process to see what that could look like.
And could you, that's very helpful. Could you give an example? Is that, maybe we'd buy a turbine at somebody else's plant, that they build another one and that's our turbine
or
or-
a piece
Or
of
portion.
So I'll give you some comparisons. When I was doing this type of work in the IOU world, let's say 25 years ago, 30 years ago, we were looking at numbers at $300 to $500 per kW installed. Well, today those numbers are probably $2,500 to $3,000 per kW installed. The market is, of course, it's inflation and the dollar value. But as we look, where could this be 4 or 5 years from now? We know that the need for electric energy is not decreasing. I don't think a lot of us saw coming is what AI was going to do, whether we participated or not. But the drive for data centers and what that electric demand is causing in the market, and that's going to drive a lot of new construction, a lot of demand on the system. So the thought here is how do we lock up a little bit into the future? We don't know that this bid process is going to give you all a number to lock in on, but we're testing the waters, and that's what Upfront is done.
Seems reasonable to ask.
And we'll have chances in the next, as this process, to meet one-on-one with you and get more explanation, ask a lot of more questions if we have them.
Yeah, yes, I encourage the one-on-ones.
Yeah.
This is very complex, and you'll be making a very important decision. So I encourage the one-on-ones to come to my office. I'll whiteboard. I'll bore you to death on this stuff, but I think it's
University.
It's time well spent in one-on-ones.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Okay.
And so Ed, along those lines, I would say that the next two slides really go into some of the things we've been talking about with respect to the volatility of solar production and how the two bids that setting aside the bid one, which deals with this nomination process, how bid 2 and 3 look at the net demand requirement of Lake Worth, given the resources that you have online, and particularly given the variability of solar, which is a pretty significant chunk of your resources. So these two slides kind of get a bit into that, which I don't know that we want to spend a lot of time here right now looking at that, but I'd encourage the commissioners here to spend some time with that information, because when we do look at the economics of these bids, those kinds of issues really sort of hit home. So I think some of the same things we've been talking about are
So what Upfront has done, and we've provided them with hourly data for years, and there's 8,760 hours per year in our business. You memorize that. And if you go back at our requirements over a period of years, and you come up with the most recent year or a typical year, and then you put that information into these proposals, and you can then calculate what our price would be under each one of these options. And each one of them, of course, has a risk associated as well. One is going to, like annuities maybe, or versus managing your own portfolios. One you'll sleep very well, but you may have left something on the table. The other, you may not sleep as well, but you can be a little bit more aggressive, control your destiny. And that's the type of analysis that we're going through.
And point of information, really quick. Shouldn't we have passed the gavel, Madam Attorney?
If you're still involved in the discussion and no action's going to be taken, it's fine. Yeah.
I'm gavelled.
To follow on the analysis and the modeling that Upfront will do, it certainly makes sense that you've given them the data on our demand. What will they use for the two solar fields? Because it seems like a pretty central part of choosing these things is how do we deal with the uncertainties with that? And I'm sure that, NREL and various other outfits they may not be very specific to Florida, but I'm sure there are outfits that do have some reasonable numbers and timing that you can feed in on that.
We do have that.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So they're extraordinarily location specific. So we do have some solar modeling available that's allowed us to estimate what solar production would have been in every hour of every year going back many years that we're lining up relative to your load profile at those same times to try to, basically, simulate what this arrangement would have looked like had it been in place in any year in the past.
Yeah, that I think will be,
Precisely.
and then run that through each bid and see how it looks.
And I believe we're actually asking the bidders to model under their proposals, right? Themselves, so we can.
That's what he had said
cross-check.
earlier.
That's correct.
We're doing it and we're asking the bidders to do both.
And then we'll compare, and if we're like way off,
So,
we'll have some
so
discussions.
sorry to interrupt, but I think we should move on from this topic.
I'm okay with it.
Okay, and
Yeah.
you'll come back to us and we'll get more information on the next
Absolutely.
topic.
Things are going to move fast.
All right,
Expect to see votes in October.
Okay. Thank you, Jonathan. We
Very good.
appreciate
Thank you.
your presentation. We have the rest of the slides, so we'll meet with Ed individually.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and move on to unfinished business B, which is the agreement with Will Scott for temporary flex trailers at 1900 South Avenue North, or Second Avenue North, which I'm assuming, Jamie, you're going to talk about real quick.
Yes,
Thank you.
and this has kind of been
Can we take it
accompanying.
over?
And this was kind of an accompanying item to the project you guys approved at the last commission meeting for the 1900 project. Obviously, staff would need to be relocated while construction and all that was going on. So this was part of that we didn't get to in that last meeting.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second, but I have a question after
Okay.
Anthony.
Okay.
But my one question was approximately how many employees and for how long will, it's not to exceed 16 months. So how many employees is this for?
So if you recall, I probably should have added it to this, but the layout for the renovation for 1900 is basically the front of that facility, and redoing both, I guess would be the northwest corner of that entrance and the southeast corner of that. So those employees kind of operating in, I guess, the current footprint of the first floor of 1900 on the community sustainability side would need to be relocated out of there. And then right in that front area, the lobby area.
Okay. And not directly related, but related to that project.
Mhm.
When will we see a plan for the mezzanine level that's being developed?
That I'll have to get with Director Waters on, because right now you're basically, it just shows that outline of the mezzanine area and then the footprint of that first floor and kind of that new layout. But we'll get, I'll get that for you guys.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Mr.
We made a motion in a second.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a
I think I
motion?
made a motion.
We already have that. We just need a vote.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. McVoy is requesting a real quick comfort break, and then we'll get to the next item.
Okay.
Well,
for the bliss point, which is where it's just sweet enough that it keeps you wanting more, but it's not too sweet that it makes you ill.
Her. Well, I feel, I feel more blissful than I did before.
Madam Mayor, it is 7:59 and we have reconvened.
Thank you very much.
Just sweet enough.
We did approve the trailers.
We did approve the trailers.
I think I was there for the vote.
We are a small town. And we have wonderful people in our town. Every once in a while, somebody comes along who is more special than ever, who gives to the city his spirit, his love, his dedication, his continuity, a rock star in our own midst. And we just want to take a minute to thank you, Barry. And I'm going to read this. This is presented to Barry S. Friedman in grateful recognition of more than 40 years of service, hard work, and unwavering commitment to the city of Lake Worth Beach. Your business, Lake Worth Beach T-shirt Company, has been a pillar of our beach community and reflection of true dedication. And we thank you. And we just really, no words can say how beloved you are and how much we appreciate having you in our midst. So thank you.
Okay. We have to do a picture. Picture. We gotta get up there. We don't have, what's this?
The new requirement, you gotta come to the picture and it's a half-hour speech. No rehearsing. I'm in trouble then. Oh, I can help you out.
Hi.
1, 3, 1, 2, 3. Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Madam Mayor,
Sir,
I wanted to roll into this item, if you don't mind.
please do.
Okay, so what we have before us is a Fourth Amendment with BF Enterprises and Volta T-shirt Company. So as you guys are well aware, transitioning this company into Volta, which is actually owned by the same owners who own Mamma Mia's. What you'll see in the backup is a letter that we received from Anthony Botaglio, owner of Mamma Mia's, kind of going into some background and this transition here. The one thing that we need to discuss is the when you look at the backup, we left the actual security deposit blank for discussion. There has been a request by Anthony to waive that. So we just wanted to have some discussion on that as well. We do have 4 comment cards. 2 of those are, one is Barry's and one is Anthony's. I don't know if you want to listen to them first before we have a conversation or, okay.
We make a motion. Well, we have to make a motion, but we need that, we don't have the thing about this deposit. So, you could make a motion to approve it in spirit, in concept.
All right, I'm gonna make a motion to approve the Fourth Amendment
As is.
as is written.
So we'll come back and do a motion for the, okay, do I have a second on that?
Yep. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
And then we'll come to the security. So first, we're gonna have Barry come up. And we have tissues up here, really, boxes of them. Hold the mic.
Is it working?
Yeah, it's on.
I am so fortunate. I've been up at the beach. Promised I wasn't going to get emotional.
How can you not?
I've been up at the beach 40 years. I'm 76 years old. I've seen generations of families who come through my doors. I've seen a lot of commissioners and mayors come through these doors as well in 40 years. It's a bittersweet emotion that I'm going through. I'm going to miss the beach so much. I'm so happy that Anthony and Lily Voltaglio are going to take over the store, that I could pass it to them. They're great operators. They're from Mamma Mia's. They're invested in the city as I was. They have a proven track record up there, and they're going to run the store exactly the way I've run it. Great merchandise, great customer service, and a lot of love that I've put into it. The last thing I want to say is I've been very fortunate. I've seen the greatest pleasure I've had, the greatest pleasure, bar none, is watching all the kids grow up right in front of me. To be successful and grow up to be fine young men and women. I have two of them here. One is a Lantana commissioner, and one is a lieutenant on the Palm Beach County Fire Department. So very proud of them. And I could say the same for Anthony and Lily. They're exactly the kind of people that I'm talking about right now. I want to thank this commission. This is probably the last time I'm going to get up and speak. I've spoken a lot to different commissions, and I just want to thank you in advance for letting this be a smooth transition to the lease. Thank you.
And thank you.
And
again.
thank you for the beautiful plaque.
Thank you for 40 years of loving our city.
Thank you.
And I think they'll let you visit. They might give you a part-time.
I'm going to
job
be
up
with
there.
them to make
Right.
sure everything runs all
Going
right.
anywhere.
You know, I'm 76. I still have a lot of stuff I want to do while I can.
I hear you.
I'm 76 years young,
You are.
and it's time. It's
Yeah.
time.
And it's great that you're doing it as a transition, that it's not an emergency. It's something that is.
And these people are going to run it exactly the way I did. I love that store. Every square inch of that store I put together,
You did.
and I'm going to miss it. I really am.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank
you very much.
We love you. Oh, Anthony Vitaglio. Yeah, you could have brought a pizza.
Next time.
You-
Maybe shared salsa next time. Good evening, everyone. I'm Anthony Voltaggio. I own Mamma Mia's on the Beach. From being here today, I see how important business is, and I feel very insignificant compared to the other things on the agenda. I'm here obviously for the amendment of the lease. We love the beach. We're totally invested in the beach, and we are hoping to just continue with the same terms that Mr. Friedman currently has. It would help us maintain everything in the store. We're going to be working with Mr. Friedman through the transition, and even beyond that, we might need some help during season because, as you all know, bonfires get busy, and every person, every set of hands helps. We're just very excited, and of course, we want to be reasonable. We want to do whatever the city, whatever is appropriate, but we will bring the same enthusiasm that we've brought into our restaurant, and with Barry's guidance, the same the same the quality and customer service. And that's just our goal overall, is to maintain the store the way it is. Of course, certain little things will change in terms of inventory and this and that. But the feeling, the shirts, the good vibes, all that will remain the same. So I respectfully ask that the lease terms remain as they are, and we'd really appreciate it.
And which means that so you're asking us to waive the security deposit?
Yeah, so
Yeah, well, let's get
yeah,
into that.
yes. So currently, there is no security deposit on the t-shirt shop, and it would help us tremendously to be able to continue with those terms.
Have you, in Mamma Mia's, have you had your security, after a few years, it's returned? Have you gotten that returned?
No, I've never had anything returned, and on top of security, I also have a letter of credit. So we have like a double redundancy. I didn't want to bring that up because I don't want to talk about like with that part of it. We've never asked for it, and there's also a letter of credit, which is very costly to maintain every year. But
So that's 1 month's security. How much, Mr.
Well, yeah, and I don't know, Troy Perry, Assistant City Manager, to comment on that. But I know in the original lease from, I believe, 2012, with timely lease payments and everything, at the end of the 5th year, we put it in the agenda item 2, that security deposit gets returned. So that was done back in 2017, I believe, which is why there currently isn't a security deposit on the t-shirt shop.
Right, but what's the amount that would be waived?
Well, in the original agreement, it was actually a cash bond equal to 1 year of the base rent.
Yeah.
And the first year, going back in 2012, of that base rent was $3,931. So it was $47,180 back then.
Right.
Based on what the rent deposit is now, which is the $59.41, that security deposit, if we went by what we did back then, would be $71,292 for a full year.
Okay, I'm gonna ask for, now we do have more public comment. Do you want to hear the other public? Okay, let's hear the rest of it.
Thank you
Very much. If we have more questions, we'll ask you. Steve. Ziggle. I'm gonna make a
Yes.
guess.
Hi, thanks for having us here. I was lucky enough to turn around and grow up in this town. I graduated in '86 from John I. Leonard. Before that, I met Barry being a surf kid on the beach. He had just opened a store, or he had just acquired the store. And shortly we became friends, and I have worked with Barry through the '80s, the early '90s, became a lifeguard straight out of high school. Lifeguard on the beach, and all the things that are great in my life, I can literally point it back to that gentleman from that connection. Friend, family, stood up for me in my own wedding. That's my best man.
No.
Yes.
He is the best man.
He literally, so when you think about it, I'm here to celebrate Barry on his retirement of 40 years. Most of us never work 40 years anywhere, yeah, no. Barry, congratulations on your retirement. The beach you have been absolute icon on that beach. You've outlasted everybody, all of us, you're the last one. I hope this young man that's taking over, I hope you're there for 40 years, I'm not coming to your retirement thing because I don't think I'll be here, but I'll be there in spirit, I said, you're looking at the next wave of people coming up, Mamma Mia sits in the original store that Barry owned when it was Surfside Sundries.
I remember.
These guys have a great product up there, and they definitely seem like their, best interest is for the city of Lake Worth. I hope you can turn around and help this young man out and pursue his dream. But no, thank you for your time. Barry, congratulations on your retirement. I love you, and I'm here to support you through these off years, man. I can't wait.
We might make a requirement that you have to put a life-size cutout of Barry. So he's always with the arm going. Jesse.
I'd like to modify my motion.
Good evening, Jesse Rivero, 612 West Pine Street, Lantana. also a newly elected council member as of March for the town.
Congratulations.
Nice to
Welcome
meet
the
everybody.
club.
Like Steve, I grew up at Lake Osborne my whole life till I was like 20 and met my wife. And Barry knew me when I was a little skate rat going to the beach. Here I am now, a 51-year-old man, Barry. I just went into the Lake Worth pension drop. My son's 20 and my other one's 22. And I just look back and I'm like, unbelievable how fast time goes. But what's real important is this man has always had a smile on his face and a loving welcoming ever since I was a teenager that I remembered until now. And it's very fortunate to meet people like him because they're hard to find. And he just truly loves his community and people. And he's just a good human being. And I'm honored, man, to have a relationship with you and Steve and all the other locals, man. I really appreciate it and wish you nothing but the best in your future.
Thank you very much. Mr. Segridge?
So I had a number of questions for staff
Okay.
on some very particular stuff for the lease. So going to page 1 of the Fourth Amendment.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Madam Mayor. I do have 4 comments in
Oh,
here.
I'm sorry. All right, we're doing a little backwards. Yeah, go ahead.
The first one I have is from Brett Colby at 4562 Hunting Trail. It says, I want to take a moment to recognize Barry Friedman as an amazing individual who has given so much of his life to Lake Worth Beach. Barry gave me my first job years ago at Surfside Sundries and the t-shirt shop. I know I am just one of the many locals whose lives he has positively impacted through the opportunities and support he has provided. For decades, Barry has been a fixture in our community. He has helped countless young people get their start, supported local families, and created welcoming spaces that both residents and tourists truly love. Visitors consistently remark on the warmth and hospitality they experience, which is in no small part due to Barry's commitment to Lake Worth Beach. With that in mind, I would like to express my concern that the current owner of the pizzeria, already an established and proven tenant, should not be required to put down an additional security deposit for this purchase. It feels unnecessary given their record and presence in the community, especially in comparison to the years of investment, dedication, and goodwill Barry has poured into Lake Worth Beach. Barry Friedman's contributions to this city cannot be overstated, and I hope his legacy and ongoing positive impact are considered as decisions are made regarding tenants and businesses here. The next comment I have is from Hannah Love at 1606 North Palm Way. I've been going to Mamma Mia since I was a little girl, going to the beach and doing junior lifeguards and growing in Lake Worth Beach. They are kind, consistent, and reliable business. They are an integral part of the community in Lake Worth Beach and have brought so much buzz and business to our beachfront. The same terms are fair as they are reliable tenants and, again, an integral part. The next comment that I have is from Gabe Scheinbaum at 2153 Soak River Drive. In the matter of the Lake Worth Beach T-shirt company pending sale, I've known Barry Friedman for over 40 years. In that time, Barry, who is my father's best friend, has also been a mentor, a boss, a second father, and a friend. His businesses at the beach have employed and even educated dozens of local youth. Many of us held our first job at Surfside Sundries or the t-shirt store. I've learned customer service and compassion from Barry. He has always been honorable and a tremendous citizen of Lake Worth Beach. He has earned his right to retire and pass the store to capable hands. Anthony at the pizza place is a trusted and proven businessman as well. With Barry's help during the transition, the store will be in good hands for decades to come. Please allow this sale to move forward. The next comment I have is from Jill Federico at 1522 19th Avenue North. Barry Friedman has been a pillar of the Lake Worth Beach community for decades, dedicating his life to uplifting others and fostering a welcoming environment for both residents and visitors. Barry and the Lake Worth Beach T-shirt Co. have always supported local families, helped young people get their start, and created a space that radiates warmth and hospitality. His impact is deeply felt by many, and his contributions have helped shape the character and charm of the city. Now, as Barry prepares for a well-earned retirement, he has taken great care to ensure that the legacy of his business continues in capable hands. The Vitaglio family, who already operate a successful pizzeria in the same location, have proven themselves to be responsible, community-minded tenants. Their track record and reputation speaks volumes, and it is clear they are committed to maintaining the spirit and integrity of Barrett's beloved store. Given their established presence and demonstrated goodwill, requiring an additional security deposit seems unnecessary and counterproductive. In light of Barry's decades of service and the Vitaglio's proven reliability, waiving the deposit would be a meaningful gesture of support from the city. It would honor Barry's legacy, ease his transition into retirement, and empower a trusted local family to continue to serve the community without added financial strain. Let's allow Barry to retire with peace of mind, knowing his store is in the best hands, and the Vitaglios the opportunity to carry forward the vision without unnecessary barriers. The next comment I have is from Carter Jerusalo at 1622 18th Avenue North. I grew up on Lake Worth Beach, was kind of a surf rat, one of those teenagers who spent as much time as possible hanging out and looking for waves. Now I bring my young kids to the beach. All those years at Lake Worth Beach, there were a few things that never changed. The beautiful ocean waters and Barry at the t-shirt shop. Barry was that guy up at the store with the supplies and the smile and the willingness to help you out if you got a flat, or a few kind words if you had a hard day. He has been a Lake Worth staple through so many ups and downs and changes to the building. Through good and bad economies, he stuck with it. And now he is trying to pass on the tradition of the t-shirt shop to the next generation. I hope the city will support his effort to sign over his lease to a small business owner who, like Barry, has shown they are committed to the success of our city. I do not personally know the potential new owner, but I do know Mamma Mia's Pizza. They have become a favorite spot for my family, and I think it is great that the owner wants to help ensure the ongoing success of the t-shirt company. I am asking the city to do what they can to make this work so we can support small businesses willing to put their heart into these stores that benefit our beach patrons. I will end by saying thank you to the mayor and vice mayor and commission for supporting small businesses at Lake Worth Beach. It is really hard to compete against the bigger corporations, and to also say a big public thank you to Barry for holding it down all those years. That is the last comments I have on this item.
Thank you, Mary. And I'm just sitting here picturing the first store. Okay, I mean, I can walk through it. Thank you.
You signed my first lease.
A long time ago. That's right. That's right. Okay. I have a question for legal before we, my understanding is this, except for the change of names, there's no changes to the terms of the lease, except if we waive them. It's exactly the same. Okay.
That's my understanding as well.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sabin?
So first of all, thank you, Barry, for your service to our community. And I had the pleasure of talking with Barry at length recently, and this company has really been special to Lake Worth Beach. And also thank you to Mamma Mia's, also a key icon for Lake Worth Beach. So, I'd like to first say that I'm fully in support of this, and I'm glad to see such an icon of Lake Worth Beach stay within essentially the Lake Worth Beach family, which is important. But I do have some pretty particular stuff on the lease. So on page 1, on the Fourth Amendment, we have the wrong company name listed. It's currently listing RVRA LLC, and that should be Volta. So whatever approval we would do would have to correct that. Page 2. What's that?
That's
Yeah, but also on page 2, section 4, we have the wrong company name again. I did want to ask, just in reading the original lease, it does include a permittable use of the sale of tobacco products. And I know our beach is no smoking. And I just didn't know, does the t-shirt company sell tobacco? Okay. I would, as a matter of cleanup, I would think that
Can we take it out? Okay,
we take that out. On the following page, page 2 of the original lease, one just overall comment, section 1.14 for future leases, and I'm not suggesting this is a change for this particular lease. When we do a renewal period, traditionally, a renewal period is done at a percentage, in this case, 3.5%. And we have here the lesser of fair market value. Traditionally, most commercial leases, almost everyone, it's the greater of those two to protect the landlord from, losing out on money as market increases. So I would just kind of ask of staff as we look at these in the future that we protect the city's interests against market volatility by having the greater of the value on the renewal terms. Looking at the security deposit that was put in, all of the terms for the original lease were met for that security deposit to be returned to Barry, and it has been. And skipping forward to section 6 under the assignment, I couldn't find anywhere in this lease where it says upon assignment there is a new security deposit due. Is there somewhere in the lease that I'm missing that we know of?
I don't think so.
So if that's not actually in the original agreement, the city wouldn't be necessarily honoring the letter of its original agreement if it were to ask for additional security deposit. That would be us asking for an additional amendment in order for us to approve this. And so I would like us, the dais, to take that into consideration when we're talking about this. The next is skipping forward to Exhibit C. We have a guarantee. And in my documentation, my packet, this guarantee is not signed. Do we know if a guarantee was signed for the original lease? I'm on Exhibit C, so it's after
12.
the full lease terms. It's right after the map. Yeah. Here.
You referring to the lease back in 2012?
Yes.
I'm not sure, Commissioner, if we can find.
It'll be signed by the new.
So I think that's important because if this guarantee has been signed by Barry, per the terms of this guarantee, he would remain the guarantor through this assignment of that lease. His guarantee of that lease would survive any assignment. In addition, the new tenant, I would assume, is going to be required to sign the guarantee.
I'm not sure whether I could pass it to legal. When the legal department prepared this document, all those things were taken into consideration. And what they were concerned about is that the new tenant had submitted a letter indicating what exactly what was happening with the lease, and that was part of it that was submitted. But as far as the guarantee, no, legal didn't discuss that with us.
So I would just, I guess, ask our new tenant, would you be willing to sign this guarantee?
Yes.
Okay. So I would also suggest for us here on the dais that we instruct legal to remove Barry as a guarantor.
Right.
On that. Well, it would have to be another document so that he can have a clean break and enjoy his retirement worry-free. And I'm supremely confident in Mama Mia's as a guarantor of this lease. And then So those are my comments on it. So that, some specific housekeeping stuff, but
Yeah.
I would be in favor of, I would like to make a motion that with these changes, that we approve this lease without requiring an additional security deposit.
Do I have a second?
that.
By Ms. May? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I don't get that. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I mean, yes,
ahead,
but
yeah.
I just wanted to touch on because Commissioner Segrish had said that I think the reason why that this whole thing was rewritten this way is because the Mamma Mia's company name and the t-shirt company name were different. And although they're the same owner, it needed to be, covered legally, but I think that it's the same people. And so when we're dealing with people, we look at people and character and we know where to find you. At the beach. So congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much and much best wishes.
And
for-
next time you come, bring pizza.
You really,
We're
would have
starving.
been nice.
All of us are
Like
starving.
Is if it possible, I could clear it up as well. What happened when this original agreement was made, was put together by legal? We were not aware that RVR
Right.
LLC was the new name until we received the letter.
Yep.
That's what happened.
100% understand. I just want to make sure when we're voting on something and saying we're approving it, that we've dotted our i's and crossed our t's.
Okay, great. Well, congratulations. Thank you again. Thank you again. Mazel tov.
Very much. Guys, you all beat. I met Barry when he had a full head of hair.
Oh, oh my God, you go back.
Let's go to the beach.
Hey, good to see you, Chris. It's been a long time.
Yes.
I haven't seen you for a long time. I need to catch up with you. You never got a proper thank you for what you did for the city in 1998.
Still around.
Okay.
40 years, I'm still here.
Yeah, Kenwood Hotel. Let me just say two words. Kenwood Hotel. There you go. Okay. Oh,
Nice to see you all.
he made it possible to tear that place down. He did a full inspection of the whole place.
Um,
All right. New business B, authorized water metering encoders purchase with the Avante Company for the city's water utility department.
Motion to approve.
Do I have a
second,
all in favor?
Aye.
C, authorized water meter purchase with Utility Solutions and Automations LLC for Badger meters for the city water utility department.
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Go Wisconsin, by the way. Badger.
Any Badgers? Go Dachshunds.
There you go.
Second amendment to agree, D. Second amendment to agreement with USP Technologies to provide hydrogen sulfide control services. Do I have a motion?
motion to,
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I have a Quick question for Vaughn, if I could. I had a note odors on South Palmway. We've more than covered that. Hopefully some of this will go to it. This won't have anything, because this is sanitary sewers, won't have anything to do with what we assume is smells from the storm sewers downtown, which we hear about, we've communicated about. That doesn't get used at all for storm sewers, or does it?
Von Baker Water Utilities, that's correct. We can't put chemicals in the storm sewers.
Because it goes into the lagoon, and that would not be a cool idea.
Also, most of the storm sewers downtown are FDOT and we're not allowed to touch their stuff, so it's twofold.
Got it. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, next one up is
I'm
task.
sorry, Madam Mayor, who made the second for that?
I believe Miss May did.
I made the first.
You made the
I
motion.
think
Yes, she made the motion.
Mr. McBoy seconded it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And don't
Okay.
wait, 'cause I got questions on this one.
What?
I have questions for Vaughn on this one.
Okay, task order number 5 with JLA Geosciences, Inc. for superficial aquifer production well rehabilitation design bidding and construction phase services. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Okay, Mr. McBoy, your light's not on, but go ahead.
sorry. And I think I heard the mayor say superficial wells, so that's so my first question, what are we rehabbing? This has got nothing to do with saltwater intrusion. This is just flow, cleaning them up so they flow better.
Correct. We've lost a good amount of specific capacity and have been having some issues with these 4 wells specifically. So this is the task order. JLA has already done a well, testing and inspection. This will be for them to create us a set of design documents for a company to come in and do the rehabilitation, whether that will be, you know, wire brush of the screens or acid to get rid of the buildup on the screens. So hopefully we can get some more water out of them afterwards.
And then my last question, does this contract meet all of the requirements for the South Florida Water Management District if they have any reporting or well logs or any of that stuff? I don't know if they do on rehabs of wells. I know they do on other things, but
You know, this will actually be my first round of well rehabs here. I've done several for Palm Beach County as a consultant, but obviously we will comply with whatever permitting needs have to be done. I think as long as we're not over drilling and it's just a maintenance activity, we're okay. We will almost certainly have to disinfect afterwards and report that we're passing back teas. But yeah, we'll definitely be in compliance with permitting requirements.
cool. Keep them happy. That's all good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. F, transfer of rate stabilization funds. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I did, what? I had some questions on that one. If one goes to, let me go page 2 of, see if I can find this here. And it kind of relates a little to, there it is, F. Page 2 of it's the one with the red and blue line, monthly PCA. And you see a curve where it's high on the expenditures at the beginning and the end, and low in the middle, and then the blue, the revenues, is more or less the reverse of that, the mirror image, where it's a little higher on the revenues basically in the winter, and lower on the expenditures. The lower on the expenditures is presumably related to use. We don't air condition as much in the winter, so that makes sense. I didn't quite follow why the blue curve is more or less inverted. It seemed odd to me, and and I wondered if, I don't know, sometimes stuff can get inverted, but it seemed like we're a long way off between revenues and expenditures, and in fact, we're off in terms of shape, which made me think that maybe that graph is not plotting what we think it is.
I suspect the graph is showing, so the blue is the revenues that we received from customers from the PCA line item on their bill.
Right.
And the red is what we've paid out in PCA expenses.
Right.
So the large gap, let's say from starting in April going through August of this year, that has to do with natural gas prices having gone up more than the price that we had baked into the PCA price that customers are paying.
But would that be true then from June 24 to September 24? It's about the same gap.
Yeah, but then we built up a surplus, and then we drew down that surplus. So at one time we were up, I want to say $2+ million on the good side, and we've been drawing it down and down and down as the gas prices went up. So the PCA did provide some stability there for a while. We were able to draw down the funds and avoid shocking the customers.
Not the PCA, but the reserve fund, whatever we call it.
Right, and I'm sorry, the rate stabilization fund.
The PCA didn't provide it.
It provided us with that cushion to ride through rising prices, and that's what it's done. And if you remember, on effective September 1, we raised the PCA charge to try to turn that tide a little bit and get it going in the right direction. And then we did see some softening in the natural gas price futures, and we're trying to get to the end of the year. What's the magic at the end of the year? That very expensive Stanton unit will come off and be replaced by much lower cost solar energy. Capacity aside, right? It's going to be a much lower cost of energy. The Stanton unit had gotten to the $80 to $120 per megawatt hour range. And I can't give the actual solar number. We've talked about it quite publicly as being under $45 an hour. So solar will be saving us dollars on a pure energy point. So we're trying to
Run
trying
your
to
AC at 1 and 2 in the
Right.
afternoon and crank it back
Right.
later on.
And of course, then we did have a base rate increase effective October 1, effective tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. But that's that's why you see that deviation. And you can see in the lower side of page 2 how that blue line, which is the revenues, have been running slightly below the cumulative expenses. And you can see we need to get that. Now we've been doing this for a few years, so this only goes back to June of 24, but at one point it was higher, right? That's how we built up that surplus, and we've been burning off that surplus. So what we're doing here tonight is we're transferring dollars from the stabilization fund from the savings account to the checking account, which we want to do at year end, so that we have adequate or proper balances reflected in our fund balances.
And I guess my only other comment, as we look at those bids and look at the analysis that we talked about earlier, let's keep in mind that there do seem to be some challenges with predicting, at least at the economic level. I have a feeling that it works better at the energy level. I would have thought that there's a pretty tight relation between the money and the energy, but maybe there's squishy stuff that I don't understand.
Well, the actual contract won't really do that for us. What would do that for us, and this is a whole nother discussion, would be the concept of using futures contracts to basically buy or bet on where the price of fuel will be in the future.
You've talked about that, but we don't really want to do that.
Right. So there are different schools of thought. The large players do it. The investor-owned utilities are no longer doing it, is my understanding. They agreed to stop doing it as a part of a rate case settlement a few years ago, if I remember correctly. FMPA is doing it for the All Requirements Project, the ARP, and OUC does hedges as well. So it depends on the philosophy of the client, what you're looking for, but that's what futures contracts would do. That's a whole nother discussion as to whether the commission wants to go in that direction.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Segrich?
I was just going to bring up, the last several times we reviewed these graphs, similar questions came up. And one thing that was helpful to me is just remembering and understanding that when we spend the money on the PCA, those revenues don't come in until days and months later.
Right.
So if you take that blue line and you slide it back about 2 months, it's going to look like it matches up a heck of a lot better. And that,
But the slide is, to get it to match, you'd have to be more like a 4-month, and that's not the line.
it's close. It's never going to be exact, and it goes up and down. But
and remember too, I say remember, I'll point out the investor-owned utilities do this annually. And we've been trying to do it in shorter cycles, and we're trying to stretch that out a little bit. But also keep in mind that you also transferred $500,000 of PCA money to seed the storm fund.
Right.
So that money is over in the storm fund. We would suggest that at some point, when we get the storm fund at an adequate level, the commission consider returning that money to the PCA. But that you're not being asked to do that tonight, just planting a seed for a future discussion. When you look at these numbers, say, boy, $500,000.
You'll guarantee no storms, we'll agree to do that.
None tonight, although it is raining. But if you think about that, we did move $500,000 over. So if you added $500,000 back in this pot, you say, wow, that's a different picture. The good news is that the money is still effectively floating in the utility fund balances, right? It's in that section of the books, if you will. So the money's not gone. It's sitting there building the storm fund.
Mr.
Okay,
Segrich,
thank you.
you're okay? Yep, good. Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. G, purchase of digger derrick trucks from All Tech Industry. I love saying that.
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I guess so.
All,
Like a pretty cool truck.
yeah, digger derrick. All in favor?
Aye.
H, work order number 24 with Hooper Corporation for construction services related to the conversion of the S3 SO4 distribution circuit from overhead to underground. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. McCoy?
Yeah, and I just had a couple questions on this one. It is somewhat large, 600,000. I was curious that you had 6 qualified contractors, applicants, but only one applied, and of course that was the best, but it was also the worst because it was the only one. Any idea why nobody else applied on that?
I think there's a couple of factors at work. Is this one contractor has put a lot of time into the city, has mobilized the workforce here, and has a competitive advantage because they stick with it. They try to win enough jobs so that they're continually here. The other part of it is there's a lot of work out there that the others are chasing with Big Blue and others around the state. And maybe they're not as interested in these smaller projects.
Okay. And then just a clarification this is for undergrounding related to, I guess, the alley that's on the backside of the Lake Avenue
Yes.
businesses?
Yes.
So this is also where all the dumpsters are. And
Right.
There's a real question of, what are we going to do with that alley, given that those businesses need to have dumpsters and dumpsters don't attract people all that well.
This will really clean up the alley quite a bit. It's not a cheap thing to do, but to get it underground, but it's also a lot of work. Those transformers that are up in the air will now be on pads on the ground. And we have to work with the existing services in the building, which are the buildings, each customer service today comes in from overhead. So we have to modify that to work.
Say that again, that the transformers that are now up on the poles and out of the way are going to,
come down.
in addition to the dumpsters,
Right.
be cluttering up,
Right. We found space. The engineers have found space for those as well.
glue them to the side of the building. I don't know, something.
Yeah. It does make it much more reliable. If we look for example, on the other side of, on the Lucerne side, that alleyway is so congested underground with the sewer and water and gas. Yeah, it's very hard to get stuff underground. So the poles are really get beat up. The trucks rub up against them and slowly but surely splinter them apart. So of course the trucks, not our trucks, but the delivery trucks suffer some damage in there as well. But this is going to be much better to be able to get this stuff underground on this side. Of course, it limits our exposure to wind events, so it makes it more reliable for those storefronts.
And I agree with all of that. I think we all agree that undergrounding in general, if you can do it, figure out a way to do it, it's not great if there's a problem, but hopefully there won't be as many problems. Right. It's not as exposed. But this seems to be very specific to the W Motor project. And I have a lot of concerns about that much resources being put into basically that project and to an alleyway that it's unclear that we're going to be able to salvage that into something that you want people to walk on. You really want them to walk on Lake Avenue. You don't want them to walk on the alleyway behind all the businesses, it seems to me. So I will not be supporting it for those reasons.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Nay on that.
Mr. McBoy is the nay. I purchase orders to McWayne Poles for the purchase of ductile iron utility poles.
Motion to approve.
Do I have a
Second, but I have a question.
Mr. McBoy?
I certainly recognize that they're strong, but they're not very decorative. So I have a question. Can they be painted?
They could be painted, but then they become a maintenance item. The painting then becomes a recurring maintenance. So they basically rust, and that barrier of rust on the steel is what protects it from going further. So
that surprises me a little. I know that some metals you do get a coating. Aluminum, I think, does that, but I hadn't heard that on.
There's a steel product I remember from 30, 40 years ago called Core 10. And that's what it was designed to do. It rust
an outside layer,
and that would protect it. The other advantage, of course, these things are much sturdier.
Yeah. No, I get that.
Not easily damaged.
Structurally.
Yeah. And it also has a tremendous benefit from the standpoint of grounding. So one of the problems
pretty well.
They ground excellently well. Excellently well. That's not really a good word. And school teacher reminded me.
We galvanize all of them.
Right. But
and as a bicyclist who runs into those copper lines periodically.
Right.
I'm
so
quite happy
and the problem with many of the grounds on the wooden poles over the years, they
stuff happens.
They disappeared.
Yeah.
And that left us with a poorly grounded system, which then leads to power quality issues. So this solves that problem too.
Okay, we have a public comment from Peggy Fisher.
Peggy Fisher, 508 North A Street. I, as a resident who comes to these meetings, would appreciate it if the commissioners who have this information for 10 days before meeting ask simple questions such as, can poles be painted before this meeting so that it does not continue a discussion that people, including staff, have to sit through to listen to just comments that don't need to be made and discussed at the time. You all have the ability to meet one-on-one with Mr. Liberty for those 10 days. And many of the questions asked tonight could have been asked before tonight, would have been appreciated by myself, others in this room, if they had been asked before tonight. This is not an opportunity to see how much you can talk. This is an opportunity to do the business of the city. And whether or not a pole can be painted could certainly have been asked before tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Item J, construction contract with A1 Property Services Group. Did we vote? Yeah.
We did not.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Construction contract with A1 Property Services Group for the re-roofing of the Pier Restaurant facility. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I do have a comment, Madam Mayor.
Oh, okay, thank you.
My comment is from Sam Smith, 109 Palmway. I am not against the roof replacement, but the city appears to be acting in a way to purposefully obscure the facts when it relates to Benny's. Just a few meetings ago, the city agreed to waive $50,000 in rent for Benny's, and now the city is spending $170,000 plus for Benny's. I get that we have a responsibility to replace the roof, but that $50,000 in rent that was waived for Benny's could have and should have gone to the beach fund to cover expenses like this. I know that the owner of Benny's contributes to some of your campaigns, but the fiscal shenanigans are egregious.
That is not true.
Sorry. Sorry, madam.
That's the end of that.
Yeah, it is. Okay, that's the end. Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Accusations are flying high and wild these days in Lake Worth Beach. Mr. Brown.
So Ocean Walk and obviously the Pier Restaurant are two completely separate businesses, but this needs to happen because we've been continually patching everything on the roof. But I did want to mention that in order to extend the life of the roof, a catwalk will be added to this roof, a catwalk.
So they don't have to walk on it.
Correct, to get from basically the second floor to like the storage area and everything else. So they, the owner will be covering the price of the catwalk. So the person doing the catwalk will be working in coordination with the roofer to get that done. So I just wanted to add that part to it.
Thank you. It's about time we re-roof that thing. Okay, did we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
And who made the second? My apologies.
Anthony.
Thank you.
Okay, subrecipient agreement with the Lake Worth Beach CRA for Pro Housing Grant Program. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Get a little explanation on
Well, it's in the backup. Mr. Brown, what would you like?
Yeah, so
to
the
know?
CRA received funding from HUD. Thanks to me. I'll say that because Joan's not here. So that's what happens when she doesn't show up. I'll take credit for it.
Nice.
And it's for the pro housing. So all this is the simple agreement with the city that's allowing them to basically reimburse us for multiple things, one of which being that housing planner position, which will be working on some of these projects. Cool. So
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. L, amendments 1 and 2 to task order 1 with Moncrief and Associates, Inc. for construction, engineering, and inspection services for additions and improvements of ADA ramps at various locations throughout the city.
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Are there any public comments, ma'am?
Yes, I have one.
Okay.
The comment is from Sam Smith, 109 North Palmway. I am reposting my comment from the last meeting, and the new ADA ramps in Parrot Cove are actually worse than what I described below in my prior comment. Several have big abrupt changes that are not ADA compliant. I wasn't sure if this project to replace sidewalk ADA ramps was city or FDOT until I saw this agenda item. I have big concerns, and I hope the city is inspecting the work done under this task order. The contractor is replacing good ADA sidewalk ramps that previously were flush as required by the ADA with adjoining asphalt. Many of the brand new ramps just done by this contractor are no longer flush and have abrupt changes from the sidewalk to the asphalt greater than a ½ inch. My child and I ride bikes throughout the city, and my kiddo normally rides on the sidewalk and noticed big bumps on these new ramps, so I took a look. There are some really bad ones along 4th Avenue Northeast on Federal, 2-inch or more changes, which does not comply with the ADA. These are brand new ramps, and now they are not compliant with the ADA because they are no longer flush with the asphalt. I haven't inspected all or any many, but the one at the corner of North Ocean Breeze and 4th Avenue North, and the one at the corner of North Palmway and 4th Avenue North are particularly bad, but many others are not flush either. I would address this quality control issue before awarding more duties under this task order. The ones noted above will need to be fixed as they are no longer ADA compliant. They were before the replacement. That is my last comment.
Thank you very much. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Brown. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so two different projects. So these so DOT is working on, they started last year with Federal Highway. They're now doing the second portion next year in 26 Moon, and 27 will be the third portion. So those ones on Federal, those are FDOT and their contractor doing that work. And we are noting the issues that we're seeing out there. These are the ones that we are doing internally on our actual city roads. And DOT had additional money. This was that TPA, Transportation Alternatives Grant that we had gotten, and we were doing the citywide ADA improvements. They had additional funding, and I pestered and said, can we have some more of that? And they said, well, give us some additional locations of what you would use it for. We supplied them with all that, and they agreed to give us more. So since we're doing obviously more than the original grant was here, we need additional funding to do additional CEI work, construction, engineering, inspection. So that's all we're asking for here.
Thank you.
But we are on top of the ones that DOT is doing on
Right.
Federal, and yeah, the same thing with Lake and Lucerne.
Right.
We were on them on a lot of the
Quite a
things
bit.
that they were doing because it didn't seem they were on the contractor that was doing the work.
That's true. Mr. Segrich.
I just had a couple quick questions. The ramps that we did by the 13th Avenue South easement, I know that some residents reported similar issues to what Sam Smith is reporting. Were those taken care of by our guys?
I believe so. I know that both CI was out there as well as our project and manager for Public Works, Shannon.
Okay. And then recently on 6th Avenue South and Federal, these are the FDOT ramps. Some of them were destroyed or broken up when there was an accident and a car ran over them. It raised a little bit of concern just over the quality of them. Like if a car just driving over them, they can break. What has been our experience with the material that they're using? Does it take a lot of force to do that? Would that have been, because it seemed like the car just rolled over it and they broke off?
Typically it takes a lot of force, and depending on how they're hit. I do notice when we as the city do those, we don't have those issues. That was DOT that installed those. And given the time frame that it takes sometimes for them to come out and do those repairs, we as the city went back out there and repaired those.
Okay.
Just because we didn't want to wait for, so that was us who actually put those back down.
Gotcha.
But
Well,
typically that's not
thank
the
you, and
issue.
we appreciate that.
Mr. McCoy.
Just to follow up, it sounded like from, if I wrote them down correctly, that Sam Smith seemed to have noticed some that were not on Federal, Ocean Breeze and North Palmley, but they all seem to be on Fourth.
I know this.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you'll check them out and figure out.
And what happens typically is when they go out there and they do those, we obviously have the CEI come and they do inspect form boards and everything. Then they go back around and do their inspections. We've had multiple locations where they needed to be removed and redone. But I mean, that's part of it. Either they meet ADA or they don't. And if they don't, sorry, they gotta be
You don't get
redone.
paid until you do.
But that's why we have this contract.
Okay. We have a motion and a second.
All in
All in
favor?
fa- all-
Aye.
I got it. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
It was
Thank you.
automatic.
Thank you.
Aye.
Okay, so we're gonna have 5 minutes. That was our last motion, our last action. Now we're gonna have 5 minutes, commissioner comments. We're gonna start with District 2.
I think that's me. I have a couple comments, try to keep them short as best I can to the 5 minutes. I would guess that any of us use the airways, from time to time. I would guess that many of our residents do. I was made aware today that the National Academy of Sciences and Engineering and Medicine an organization that I have dealt with for a number of years on nothing to do with air traffic controllers, but on, in general, they do, they get experts together from around the country to look into various things that need looking at. Their study must have come out fairly recently, says that there is a real problem with air traffic controllers, and that they're looking into it. The NAS, the Academy of Sciences, said that a lot of it has to do with government shutdowns, that it bottles up their training, and it has done it enough times that they're way behind in having staffing for it. So a lot of places are understaffed to the point where some airlines are told, cut back your flights because we can't safely get them through. It concerns me a good deal that we are about to face another government shutdown. I'm told that the Republicans have already gone home. The Democrats are there to try and avoid a government shutdown. Air traffic safety seems like a pretty important thing to stay on top of and make sure that you're supplying enough trained people. Apparently it takes about 5 years to train people. And so I think let people know that a government shutdown federal government shutdown has major costs. The mayor of South Miami has paid some attention to immigration issues, and I agree with his concern. He was concerned that if his city were to get involved in 287G agreements where local law enforcement takes on some of the work of the federal immigration activities, that it puts their city at increased legal risk. And I think his argument makes some sense and is one that we should be paying attention to here, because we know that nationwide there have been verified reports of U.S. citizens being detained. We know that there have been cases of lack of due process. We know of families that have not been informed when somebody just gets disappeared off the street. It's happened here in Lake Worth. We know that there have been plenty of cases where attorneys have not been able to even find initially and then not be able to have contact with the detained individual. So due process the law is not being followed. And to the extent that we are involved, I suspect that puts us at some legal risk. That concerns me. The mayor, our mayor, a while back, probably several weeks ago now, requested suggestions when a number of citizens came to the meeting and suggested that we need leadership. Things are not good in this city. And they asked for leadership. The mayor said, could you give some suggestions? We all received a proposed ordinance some number of weeks ago now. The proposers asked that it be put on an agenda for discussion. I have asked that it be put on repeatedly, that it be put on the agenda for discussion. I repeat that request here. I would like my colleagues to say, are you willing to at least
Point of information.
discuss? I'm not
Can I
done
ask-
yet.
I have a point of information on this. In our commission rules, if something is brought forth for consensus and denied, I believe it states that it cannot be brought forth again for 6 months.
You probably know the rules better than I do at this point because they've changed so much, but if that's the rules.
I don't know if it was consensus or.
It was brought forward in a pre-agenda meeting for consensus. Consensus was not reached, so it's improper to bring it forward again for 6 months.
I don't know if it was consensus or ordinances. I don't have that. It's a pop quiz. I don't know the answer. So, but Madam Clerk, how's Mr. McVoy doing on time?
He's got 1 minute and 6 seconds left.
Okay. Also would note here that the mayor of South Miami referred to, and I don't know the details, as the legal could perhaps check into that there was a recent legal judgment, I'm guessing within Florida, that changed the landscape to allow more local control on whether cities get involved in 287G agreements. I understand that the 287 in our case is with the county, but PBSO is our contractor. We, in our typical arrangements with contracts, can ask things of our contractor, what we do and don't want them to do. So we have some ability to do that. And finally, I think it's very alarming when federal government goes in certain directions. The Comey indictment of going against an FBI director is a real step down a slippery slope. And I think we as elected officials have a responsibility to raise concern on those.
Thank you.
Thank you.
District,
Madam Mayor, I just wanted to say Commissioner Segridge is correct. It's the 6-month time frame to bring the item back up.
for consensus or ordinances or resolutions?
Yes, if
Okay.
it consensus isn't reached, there's a 6-month waiting period.
Oh, all right, thank you, good to know. So many rules. District 3.
Thank you. I'll make this brief. I wanted to thank, I think he left though. Did Troy leave? Okay, but I'm sure you can hear me. I just want to thank him so much for his efforts lately. He's really gone above and beyond when I've asked him about certain areas of the city where there's been dumping and there's been everything else, and it's just done right away, and it's been just really, really nice. The other thing is the mayor and I went up to Orlando last week, and we met with our advocacy committees. I'm on finance and taxation, so we did talk a lot about property taxes and how it would affect municipalities, and how the League of Cities is choosing to make a stance to work with whatever comes out of the state. Right now, it really, there is nothing concrete that has come out of the state. They met last week on Monday and Tuesday, and really, I think that the big takeaway was a lot of the electeds didn't understand where property taxes went. So even from that, it's going to be a lot of an for residents, electeds, as well as ourselves as well. So I'm really excited to be on that committee. And I don't know if I think of anything else, I'll do it at the regular meeting.
Okay. District 4.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I typed it out just to make it easier for people. I had 2 items that I wanted to ask consensus for. We can start with the short one. If you flip the page over to the short one, I wanted to ask consensus that we have for discussion to provide clear direction and goals, expectations in regard to turnaround times for staff and the city attorney, to bring back items to the commission for those that we voted upon or granted consensus. The problem that I've seen, and it's been brought up to me by residents, is there's a couple of things. When we ask for consensus, we don't formally get a tally of agree, disagree, always to grant consensus where time is short. We have a backup of over 48 items waiting to come before the commission that are in various states of drafts. Smaller items oftentimes get pushed in front of larger items because staff is trying to knock out certain things that they can get done. And a lot of times, some of the larger items can take 6 to 8 months to get back to us for a vote or direction onto the first reading. With such a long delay, much is lost with the discussion, and a lot of the issues kind of get relitigated because it took so much time for them to come back to us. So again, this is purely, I'm asking for consensus to discuss these as possible solutions, and any solutions that my colleagues would have. But I had some suggestions, and I had talked to staff about it. First would be establish a 45-day turnaround time for straightforward items, those items that do not have or involve state or federal statute review. From the time of vote or direction given, so staff should have 45 days to bring them back to us for first reading. For those items that are more complex, a 60-day turnaround time, and those are items that require state statute review or significantly larger, to come back for review, not necessarily a first reading, but oftentimes they will come back as a discussion item based on what our attorneys have found. What this does is allows the city manager and our city attorney to determine if more resources are needed to accomplish our goals. And we've got a lot of stuff that we're trying to get through, and we're doing a good job of it, but I don't want us to lose that momentum. So I would ask consensus that we could at least discuss this and any other ideas that we have that we can get this process going, because our backlog is growing and we need to get these things out the door. And
you have consensus from me
to discuss it.
Yeah.
We can discuss it. I'm not tonight, obviously, but yeah, I have some I would have some changes in line. Mr. McWay?
I too would have changed. I don't think the 15-day difference between.
Okay, well, we'll.
you know,
discuss
Yeah, I
that
mean,
when
it
we
just
get
says to add the following topic to the earliest possible commission meeting.
Yeah, so we'll discuss more detail. So you have consensus to bring it forward at some point?
Okay, so flipping it over, along the similar vein, we've been working very hard and our meetings have been jam-packed. And we've had a lot of items moved. So I wanted to discuss modifying our commission rules to establish new meeting guidelines in an effort to optimize our meetings and fully attend to the business of the city. So again, similar problem. We've got the backlog. We have to get through it. We're consistently running out of time pushing items from one agenda to the next. We have automated cutoffs in our rules that can't be overridden by vote. We ran into that last meeting where we had, a good amount of time left where we could have gotten through some of those, but instead they got pushed because we weren't able to override that. And so we often get to the end of the meeting and we either don't do commission reports, and sometimes we often rush through items. And these items are important, and they, residents are seeing that, and they really feel that we have to take time for discussion. So again, this is only asking consensus to discuss these, but here's, my suggested solution. Since we hold two regular city commission meetings and one utility meeting, I would repurpose the utility meeting like we had tonight, which interesting enough, tonight was a very full one, but a lot of times they aren't as full, to become the community engagement and departmental meeting. And I gave a sample agenda, but the basic would be to put all the proclamations, honorings, awards into this meeting, to have other departments come into this meeting like the utility department does and give their presentations and some of their items in it. And remove a lot of those items from our regular city commission and streamline our regular city commission so that it was basically pledge, agenda, addition, deletions, throw the commissioner reports up early because I think a lot of the residents want to hear what's going on in the different districts. So we get through our reports, do public participation, and then get right into the hearings and the new business and unfinished business, but not do any proclamations or community stuff at the regular city commission meetings. So trying to optimize that time. Another suggestion would be to begin meetings at 5 p.m. Allow us to extend both at 10 p.m. and 11 p.m. So getting rid of the automated cutoff, and allowing us to take up new items past 10 p.m. if we so choose, if we vote on it. So again, these are just some of my suggestions, but I really think we need to take a good look as a commission at how do we optimize our time and still maintain all of these traditions and all of these things that we hold to be important. But I think by reorganizing it, we can get a lot more work done.
So I'll give consensus to add this discussion to the meeting without making any discussion right now. Just say, yes, let's talk about it at some point.
Yeah, certainly we can talk about it at some point. I don't agree with it necessarily, but we can certainly talk about it. Mr. McBoy?
I don't agree with it necessarily, but we can talk.
Okay, so
So I do
Okay,
hope that
you've got your-
when I bring some proposals that they will meet similar, give them the time of day at
Okay.
least to discuss.
This is about the city.
District,
Well, so
well, you had your.
no, I haven't. I mean, my time should not be counted when you guys are speaking.
Well, speakers, good. Go ahead.
So went to the Palm Beach County Transportation Master Plan meeting. Keep it real brief. The theme there is, do you hate traffic? If the answer is yes, get involved. So they have a website, pbcmoves.com, and on there is a survey in English, Spanish, and Creole. And that survey is available to all people within Palm Beach County, business owners, as residents and technical experts. And I believe as the city, we're going to be advertising that to hopefully get our residents involved in that. We had great turnout at the District 4 Town Hall. One of the things that came out of that is we need to figure out a way of reaching more people other than Facebook or social media. So it was brought up again that we didn't have many representatives from our Hispanic or Haitian community there. So I am personally going to be trying to set up an email list and a text list to get the message out for future meetings. So if anyone wants to be on that, send me an email and I'll make sure that you guys get on that list. But I would encourage my colleagues to do something similar so that we don't have to rely so much on Facebook. And then lastly, on October 3rd, this Friday, Arms of Hope is having their annual gala. You can go to armsofhopecommunityinc.org to learn about that. They do great work for our city. They are doing this gala for fundraising, so they still have seats available. And I would encourage the people, if they want to go to a great masquerade ball at the Beach Casino Complex, to check that out. Or if they just want to donate to a great cause within our city, to go to their website. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. I don't have too much. I'll keep it quick. We went to legislative committee. I'm on the land use code enforcement and that sort of thing. And we're just, grappling with land, local, all that stuff that the legislature is trying to do to us. I had the pleasure of welcoming there was a Guatemalan princess competition on Saturday at the park. And I was very happy to see there were quite a few people there. It was very joyous. It was gorgeous. And I had the honor of welcoming them to our city. 6th Avenue South is wrapping up, and I really would like a status check from somebody about what plantings are going to, now they've done the road work. What are we going to do to make it look pretty?
Completely separate project.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but I want to know about that project. I've been asking about that because I don't want it to just go away and have it be not much. So, and that's all I'm going to do tonight. Thank you. Okay. City attorney report, city manager report.
No report. I just wanted to mention, kind of jumping on what Commissioner Segwich mentioned. If you guys have ideas, as far as like meeting layout and everything, if you could bring those when we have that discussion, because as I had mentioned before, we need to look at what we can do to modify. I don't see any of the meetings getting shorter anytime soon, given everything we have going on. So we do need to look at how do we not end up in situations like we have a few times over the past few months where we literally just run out of time and still have 5 or 6 items on that agenda. With our current rules, trying to wedge all that in, we still have, there are items that moved to tonight's meeting. It would have been nice, since we're trying to expedite, for example, the roof on the pier. If we had gotten to that 2 weeks ago, that could have already been underway, and we're trying to expedite that so we can get that done before season. So items like that we kind of had this 2-week delay because we didn't get to stuff like that. So just if you can come with some possible ideas you might have to how we can expedite some of these. So just from a staff perspective, so we can get through the business of the city.
Hear you.
So.
I think sometimes some self-editing would be helpful. Because there's a lot of time taken up where I go to I talk to different commissioners from different cities, and it's not what we do. It's pretty much you ask your questions before you get to the meeting, and you vote. You don't, everything does not demand an exposition. So I think that has contributed a lot to the times of our meetings. And I just think that is not always helpful. So, but that's one idea. So, and I remember when we used to go till 2 a.m. and nothing good happened. Really, nothing good happens after 10 o'clock. Really, it's just your brain gets tired. So, with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.